colder than of late, by Ken Whitmore.
And finally, the weather prospects for the north region. A bright, frosty night is forecast.
She'll be here at any minute.
Woman, the
It will
weather.
be colder than of late, but the severe northeasterly winds should abate towards dawn, and there is a likelihood of snow on the hill.
Norman, Miss Moraine.
Finish,
The further
Sarah.
outlook is for a continuing cold spell with falls of snow, heavy in places, likely to affect the entire region.
There, that's her.
This is the north region of the BBC Home Service.
Now, tell her we want no pencil writing.
Now-
Get it in ink.
Henry
You
Hall
tell her.
and the BBC Dance Orchestra.
Anybody'd think you were scared of her. All right, I'm coming.
Well, you're in a tearing rush to open up to a starving soul, Sarah Minshall. What's the matter? Is the house afire?
Oh, Miss Moraine, I'm sorry. I came just as soon as ever I could.
Let the old witch freeze to the doorstep, is that what Norman said? Then you'd get a soft-headed landlord who'd drop the rent to 10 bob a year. Or maybe not, eh?
Here's the rent book, Miss Moraine.
Well, let me into the hall, then. Can't see in this dark. Never mind my fingers dropping off with frostbite.
Just mind that step. It's right icy.
I can see I threw good brass away decorating these walls for you. Some folk just don't respect other people's property.
Norman decorated it himself, Miss Moraine, if you remember, and it's peeling off the walls because of the damp we've been telling you about ever since.
Bad paper hanging, more like. This row of cottages have stood here hundreds of years. They're in the guidebooks. A charming group fronting the quaint old High Street. That's what they call them. These walls are as solid as your Norman's head. Now, none of your nonsense, and let's see the colour of your money. See, it's 2 weeks you owe, isn't it? Just let's get me pen.
No, it's never. We settle up prompt every week, as you well know.
You'd be a right rare one for this day and age if you did that. Did you write this time, as it happens?
In pen, please.
What'd you say?
You're writing it in pencil. Norman says you should write it in ink with a pen. Rent, in a rent book.
He can lump it, then.
Then I must give you no rent.
What's this? Am I suspected of some underhand devious malpractice because I run out of the house without a pen?
Here's a pen, Miss Moraine.
What?
And ink on the hall table here.
I do hate to see a mistrustful woman, Sarah. You're a funny little body. Well, give it here. Now, give me the money. Right. Now, in ink. Received February the 18th, 1947, 5 shillings and 9 pence. There. Satisfied? And there's your blessed pen.
Thank you, Miss Moraine. Good night.
Night, Sarah. Oh, there's just one thing. Norman Minshall. I know you're skulking back of that door. Minshall, I want words with you.
Aye? Were you calling me, Miss Moraine?
They tell me you're doing some work for that Mrs. Perigord at the Shepherd's Pie restaurant.
I'm building an extension for her, yes.
Well, just remember you're supposed to be maintenance man at my mill, not odd jobber for the village in general. I don't run a mill for the convenience of a man setting up a business for himself on the side. It's the final warning, Minshall. And if I have to dismiss you, I dismiss you from this house, too. And I'll write that down for you in ink. Good night.
Now, watch your footing on that ice, Miss Moraine.
Watch your footing. I hope she breaks a blasted neck.
Come out of the cold, Norman. Let's get this door closed.
Just a minute. What's she driving tonight? Blasted Bentley. Look at that. 75 years old, too mean to employ a rent man, drives around in a damn Bentley collecting her coppers. They wouldn't believe that if you put it in a book. Hellfire! She's going to pull right out in front of that car!
Miss Moraine! Look out! I daresn't look. Are they all right?
Come on, inside.
Norman, they might be hurt.
Inside. The force she wants us as a witness in her favour.
Are you all right in there? Madam, are you all right?
It's not a blessed speedway track. Why don't you look where you're going?
Are you all right?
Is my car all right, that's all. Here, out of my way. Let me out. Blessed speed hogs.
Now, I should sit quietly for a minute. You've had a shock.
Are you going to let me out? And you can loose hold of my elbow. I'm no invalid.
This road's a sheet of glass.
Right bash. This is going to cost you a good few weeks' pay, young man.
I beg your pardon?
Oh, look what you've done to this mudguard. You can't replace bibs and bobs like that on a Bentley for 9pence, you know. Not to mention that radiator of yours. Sunbeam Talbot, eh? It's not a speedway track.
We've both got off light if you stop and think. A couple of hours' work for a panel beater, dab of paint, that's all.
It'll go back to the works, and you'll pay for it.
Well, look, I don't want to stand here arguing, but I wasn't to blame, you know.
I suppose you'll be saying I was in a minute.
Look, I'm prepared to forget it.
I'll bet you are.
I've taken a bigger clout than you, and you did cut right out in front of me.
I'll trouble you for your name and address. This is a reckless driving case.
I think you're right.
Name and address.
All right, I'll write it down. Here's some paper here. My wallet, yes, and a pen. Bernard Baxter, 19 Leopard Gardens, Hendon, Middlesex. There. And I'm putting up at the inn here tonight.
The mortal man?
That's right. And your name?
Moraine. Martha Moraine. The Lead Hall. 2 miles up the road on the edge of the moor.
Moraine?
Heard of me, have you?
No, it's just the name, Moraine. It means an infectious disease of cattle, doesn't it?
If that's meant as sarcasm...
Look, Miss Moraine, I advise you to go home, get a good night's rest, and get your car into a garage in the morning, and then forget all about it. It's a good offer.
Listen, Mr. Baxter, I'm getting browned off with you.
Will you please let go of my coat?
Are you aware of my standing in Gimmerbeck? I practically own this dale. The chairman of the bench is a very good and close friend of mine.
Let go of my coat.
The village police sergeant and me have an understanding. We've no time for road hogs in this dale. Oh!
I warned you about holding my coat.
You bullying devil. Strike an old woman of 73. I'll have you up for assault and battering.
And could I just point out to you, Miss Moraine, or Mrs. Moraine, whichever the case may be, that under Section 16 of the Offences Against the Person Act of 1861, you just committed an unlawful assault on me by placing your hands on my coat. Good night.
Baxter?
Yes?
You give me £50 and we'll say it never happened.
Good night.
Was the meal satisfactory, Mr. Baxter?
Thank you, it was very good.
Will there be anything else?
Oh, you might put a couple of bottles in my bed. It's like the Arctic up there.
That's been done, sir, and I've lit you a fire.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Are there any other guests?
Just one gentleman, Mr. Grinton. He pays us a call from time to time.
Oh, by the way, I'll be making a start at 7 in the morning, so I want to call at 6.
6?
Breakfast at past, orange juice, red hot porridge, and ham and eggs, I think.
Well, sir, ham and eggs, what with rationing.
Oh, we're in the heart of the English countryside, aren't we? A pig in every parlour, a hen under every bed. Don't tell me you live on Walton pies and snook up here.
There is the law, Mr. Baxter.
Oh, we come face to face with it at every turn, don't we? Here you are. Would a couple of pounds help to defray any fine you might incur?
Oh, thank you kindly. I'll see what I can do. Now, would you like to step through to the saloon bar? There's a nice warm fire in there.
Lead me to it.
That's the tap room through there. Local mill workers and farmhands get in there. I think you prefer the saloon. Just through here, sir. This way, sir. Oh, evening, Mr. Grinton.
Hello, Peter.
Hello, Rector. I didn't see you come in.
I was as unobtrusive as possible, Peter.
Rose, see that Mr. Baxter's well looked after. I'll just go and see how your fire's getting on, sir.
Now then, sir.
Oh, Scotch, please, if you do have the real McCoy.
Excuse me, sir. Will you join us over here and share the merry blaze?
Thank you. Would you join me in a drink?
Oh, well, that's very decent. A rum and peppermint, please.
Good. And your companion?
Oh, a pint of bitter. It's very noble of you.
All right. Now, a Scotch, rum and peppermint, and a pint of bitter, please.
Right, sir.
Here you are, miss. Bring our drinks over, will you?
Yes, certainly, sir.
Oh, look, do take my seat.
Here, I'll move round a bit.
All right. I'll stand in front of the fire until the blood starts flowing. My name's Baxter, by the way.
And my name's Synico, Arthur Synico.
Rector of this parish.
And this is Mr. Grinton.
How do you do?
Mr. Grinton's our local, I think the term is news hound.
Forewarned is forearmed.
Here you are, gentlemen.
Thank you, Rose.
Eightpence halfpenny change, sir.
Thank you. Well, your good health.
And to you.
Cheerio. And here's hoping you meet with no more little accidents.
Accidents? What, is that the talk of the village already? It only happened 3/4 of an hour ago.
I'm paid to be a walking antenna, Mr. Baxter. And you know how it is in a village. Kick one and they all limp. Don't I know your face, Mr. Baxter?
I doubt it. This is my first time in these parts.
Well, I travel all over Yorkshire.
Mr. Grinton's the agricultural correspondent of the Yorkshire Evening Standard. He only pays us a call every month or so. A peripatetic post, you might say.
Keep the party clean. I move from town to town, digging out the farming news, village to village. I'll place you in a minute.
I've never been in Yorkshire before.
What brings you up here, if it isn't a rude question?
I think it is rude, Mr. Grinton.
I'd intended staying the night in Rigworth, but I hadn't realised how depressing these big northern mill towns really are. The Blitz didn't make much improvement, did it?
No.
I just thought I'd push on to somewhere more pleasant, and I saw the sign, Gimmerbeck, 20 miles.
Rigworth's my hometown and very close to my heart, Mr. Baxter. But have another drink. Rose, my love, same again.
Right.
I suppose you don't realise you came within inches of making yourself a village hero tonight, Mr. Baxter.
Oh, yes?
Gimmerbeck's dragon slain. The toast of this tiny Dalestown tonight is a 42-year-old... I didn't get your occupation.
I didn't mention it. And you're a bit out on the age as well.
Oh, you must forgive Mr. Grinton. He's trying to loosen your tongue because the villagers steadfastly refuse to unlock theirs.
They're a cagey lot, all right.
They keep their counsel.
But they'd have erected a statue to you, Mr. Baxter, if only you'd killed the old girl.
Miss Moraine? Is she not liked, then?
Rector, will you disabuse this innocent gentleman?
She's a fellow creature, Mr. Grinton. Show a little charity.
She's a greedy, vindictive, spiteful, grasping old...
In other words, not Mr. Grinton's cup of tea. Drinks.
Thank you, Rector.
That's a good Rose. Shove it on the bill, will you?
Right, Mr. Grinton, I will.
Martha Moraine. Yes. In a way, you know, she's admirable. You have to hand it to her. This dale's in the palm of her hand. Owns most of it. 30,000 acres or more. The mill, the tannery, half the cottages, and the souls of the tenants. Talk about Russian serfs. Her father bought the mill and gathered most of the land around him. I've ginned up on this family. Broke his neck on a horse in 1904, to universal rejoicing by all accounts. But they cheered too soon. Just 30, Martha was, when she started her reign of terror. You know how she used to recruit labour for the mill? She'd go down to Rigworth or Bradford or Leeds, one of the mill towns, and get a job as a mill hand. And she'd watch very carefully to see who worked well, who pulled his weight, who was a good timekeeper, you follow? Then, when she'd marked down the cream of the workers, she'd sidle up and tempt them to Gimmerbeck. Pure country air, security of employment, a cottage by a beck.
And then?
The rude awakening. Exploitation, Mr. Baxter. The threat of eviction if you put a foot wrong. I'll tell you, one of these mill hands, in about 1910 or 11, wasn't it, Rector?
What? The woman who died. Oh, before our time. About 1910. Getting on for 40 years, anyway.
One of the mill hands she brought up from Rigworth went and died. And Martha Moraine, no messing about, gave his widow notice to quit the cottage the day after the funeral. Winter it was. Night like this, I shouldn't wonder. The widow leaves her child with a neighbour, little boy of 4 or 5, says she has to run an errand, and off she goes. 2 days later, she's found frozen to death on the moor. What was the woman's name, Rector?
Her gravestone's in a corner of the churchyard, but I must confess I haven't looked at it for years.
What became of the boy? Is he still in the village?
No. Back to Rigworth, I suppose. Relatives or what have you. Some said the woman called at the Lead Hall. That's Martha Moraine's house. You pass it on the way to the moor. They say she called on Martha to beg for one more chance, but got turned down flat and just wandered onto the moor to die.
It sounds a bit far-fetched.
Listen, Mr. Baxter. I could tell you more tales about Martha Moraine.
Oh, really?
Well, what about the brass band?
Brass band?
She confiscated their instruments. This is only about 18 months ago.
The Gimmerbeck British Wool Brass Band. Quite famous in these parts, Mr. Baxter. Most of the instrumentalists work at Miss Moraine's mill.
They went down to a contest in Manchester and won first prize. Then they started celebrating. Well, next morning, I don't think one of them turned in on time at the mill. Next band practice, they go along to the old loom room where they keep their instruments and do the rehearsing, and their instruments have gone. What's this? Oh, says Martha, I've suspended the band for a month. Next time it'll be the sack. Then there's George Sarum.
Yes?
A bit of an artist with a paintbrush. Only got one arm. Just about scrapes a living doing local landscapes, as far as I can see. He's one of Miss Moraine's tenants, little cottage down by the river. And she's taken him to court for non-payment of rent.
No.
But the thing is, you see, Sarum's wife says she paid the rent, only Miss Moraine entered it up in the rent book in pencil. Who would you believe, Mr. Baxter?
Oh, bless me, 8 already. I'm afraid you really must excuse me.
Oh, Rector, I'd like a look at your church.
Church?
It's a hobby of mine.
Architecture?
I go in for the Norman period.
Yes, well, we're Norman, all right. At least originally. We've still got a pure Norman doorway, the heads filled in solid with beautiful sculpture to the top of the arch. Oh, look here. Come to the rectory for a sherry tomorrow.
I'm leaving at 7 in the morning. I've got to be in York by 10. Would you mind if I stroll along with you now?
You don't understand. The church is on the fell, you see.
The fell?
And jolly inconvenient, too. A stiff climb of getting on for a mile. Fortunately, the rector is down here in the village. Sometimes the snow stops us using the church for weeks on end. The parishioners have never acquired my knack of climbing mountains.
Mr. Synico's a man of many talents. He's the leader of the Gimmerbeck Mountain Rescue Team, for one thing. Don't let that dog collar deceive you.
You see, Mr. Baxter, the shepherd of Christ's flock in this parish must be a man of resourceful parts as well as strong and simple faith. Now I must bid you good night. It was awfully nice meeting you, Mr. Baxter. I wish you a safe journey in the morning. Goodbye, Grinton.
I'll be seeing you.
Good night.
Skinflint.
What did you say?
Walking out without buying his round. Strange, that. He used to be very free with his brass once upon a time. I believe his father left a very long stocking.
Huh?
Plenty of cash. Some good paintings, too, I believe. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if the rector's gambled it all away.
He wouldn't be the first sporting parson.
And women.
What?
Right now, it wouldn't surprise me if he's off to see Mrs. Perigord.
Oh?
Keeps the restaurant just up the road from here. The Shepherd's Pie. A very nice piece, Charlotte Perigord.
Well, isn't he married?
Oh, yes. Pretty happily, on the surface.
Well, I think I'll take a stroll and stretch my legs. I've been driving all day.
Where from?
You know, I'd kick myself if I leave here without taking a look at that Norman doorway.
What's going on in York?
How do I get to it?
York?
The church.
Are you serious? Go 500 yards up that fell and you'll die of exposure. The Corpse Road will be thick with ice.
Corpse Road?
The lane up to the church. Nasty spot to break a leg. Of course, if you want to supply me with a crisp little story for tomorrow's first edition, Stranger Freezes on Fell...
All right, you've talked me out of it. I'll go and take a look at the village.
Fresh air fiend, aren't you?
I like to study the makeup of these little out-of-the-way places.
In the dark?
There's a full moon. Is there anything worth looking at?
On a miserable Monday night in Gimmerbeck. It's just a typical Dale's village, that's all. 100 or 2 little stone cottages, a few Georgian places. This is the only village in the Dale, by the way. Has the Dale all to itself. Of course, you'll see a few little lights winking up in the hills, the farmhouses. The village is full of trippers in the season, hence the home-knitted woolens and knick-knack shops. The place couldn't survive without tourism, really.
Yes, I see. Well, there's nothing of architectural interest, except the church.
Well, there are the remains of the lead mines up on the moor, 17th century, I think. But you won't be going up there tonight. Oh, and there's a little stone hermitage, like a tiny chapel. Supposedly haunted, of course. Very remote, between here and the Lead Hall.
Miss Moraine's place. I still haven't got my bearings.
Well, it's pretty straightforward. We're in the village main street, right? The Mortal Man. Go out of here, turn left, and you pass the Shepherd's Pie, the last building in the village. Then you're climbing the hill up to the moor. On the other hand, you can turn right, down the hill, through the village, over the bridge, and you're on your way out on the Rigworth Road. The Corpse Road to the church branches off just before the bridge.
Yes, I think I've got the lay of the land. Well, we may meet later.
Wrap up warm, Mr. Baxter. Rather you than me.
Your health, Mr. Grinton.
Cheerio, Doctor. Now drink it right down.
Ah, that's good. You can't beat a brandy. I suppose you've been hugging that fire all night.
Who wouldn't? It's a night to make a black dog walk in white.
Some of us have to go out in it.
You've been working?
I just closed the surgery and I was looking forward to a lazy night. And I got called out to Aysgarth.
Over the moor?
All in a day's work. And just think of the poor sheep farmers. Lambing time and weather like this. It was snowing like blazes when I left Aysgarth. Flakes as big as half-crowns. Should reach us in an hour or two.
Well, let me get you another brandy.
Oh, Mr. Grinton, you'll have me plastered.
Rose, another brandy for Dr. Dunsany. I can't have you going down with a cold. Well, it's Mrs. Perigord. You timed that nicely.
Oh, good evening. Hello, Hilary.
Hello, Charlotte.
Rose, a drink for Mrs. Perigord.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Grinton, but I'm with the rector.
Good evening, good evening. Have you been monopolising that fire all evening, Grinton? Hello, Doctor.
Yes, I'm still chair. And one for Mr. Synico, Rose. I think it's a rum, isn't it?
And peppermint. Scotch for you, Mrs. Perigord?
Yes, lovely.
Come and sit by the fire, Charlotte.
I just popped in for a nightcap.
Oh, we've had rather a heavy evening of it, ploughing through the parish accounts at the Shepherd's Pie. Mrs. Perigord's our treasurer, you know.
Yes. Well, I'll just move these chairs around so you can all get a peep at the fire.
Right, and I'll put this one over there.
Fine. You sit there, Mrs. Perigord.
Thank you.
Don't mind me. I'm toasted all through.
Well, this is all very snug.
Charlotte, I don't want to spoil party fun, but speaking as your doctor, I think you're very unwise to come out on a night like
Oh,
this.
please don't bully me, Hilary. I'm liable to burst into tears. Anyway, I think I've earned a drink. I don't keep a single bottle in the house now.
You're doing very well, but you mustn't take any risks.
Oh, thanks, Rose. I'll take the tray.
I'm rather cross with you, Rector.
My dear Dr. Dunsany, you make me feel very guilty.
Just as long as you remember Charlotte's still in a very delicate state of health.
Oh, good God, Hilary, can't we give it a rest for once?
Dr. Dunsany, can you spare a minute? This gentleman's been hurt.
Oh dear, what's happened to him?
All right, Randall, I can stand on my own 2 feet.
Steady the bolts, Mr. Baxter. Just keep a hold on me till we get you to a chair.
What happened? Did you slip on the ice?
I just ricked my damned ankle, that's all.
My dear Mr. Baxter, here, take my chair.
Now, let's sit down. Gently does it.
My God, Baxter, I do believe you've been trying to climb up to that church. Came a cropper, did you?
Look, I'm sorry to cause all this commotion. My ankle seems to have packed in.
All right, let me take a look.
Get your blasted hands off me.
I'll just unlace your shoe.
Hands off, I said.
Don't be a fool, Baxter. The lady's a doctor.
Well, are there no men doctors in this benighted place?
Sorry, you'll just have to put up with me, Mr. whoever you are.
Baxter. Sorry. I just prefer being treated by a man.
Golly, is it 10 already? Now off with that shoe, Mr. Baxter. There. Peter, could you get me a roll of bandage and a jug of cold water?
Right you are.
Now, I'm just going to press here, Mr. Baxter.
Thank you very much.
Yes. It's rather ugly and puffed up, but, grit your teeth, Mr. Baxter. I'm going to give it a little twist.
Is it broken?
All you're suffering from, Mr. Baxter, is a badly sprained ankle and a slight case of misogyny.
Were you trying to get up to the church?
The church?
Mr. Baxter's a student of Norman doorways.
All right, I'm an idiot. It looked perfectly straightforward to me. I'd only gone 100 yards and bam, down I went.
Lucky it didn't happen at the top. Stranger freezes on fell.
Bandages, Doctor?
Oh.
Where do you want this job? Is he all right?
Oh, just down there, Peter. He'll have to scratch from the sprint for a few days, but no lasting damage. I'm going to strap you up, Mr. Baxter. Now, be warned, this water's icy.
Oh, dear, this is marvellous. I'm supposed to be in York at 10 in the morning.
Well, you won't be driving anywhere on that ankle.
Is there anybody in the village who could run me there? He'd be well paid.
Robin Lambert, apprentice at the garage. He might do it.
Could you get in touch with him, then?
I'll slip along and see him now.
I think you'd better help Mr. Baxter up to his room first, Peter. Bed's what he needs at the moment. You might get him a stiff brandy first.
Right.
York, of course. I know who you are now, Mr. Baxter.
Really?
I knew I'd seen your face before. Inspector Morgan. He goes on trial at York tomorrow, doesn't he? Charged with murdering his wife.
You're very well informed for an agricultural correspondent, Grinton.
Yes, Inspector Morgan. He used to work for you at Scotland Yard, didn't he? You're Baxter, Detective Superintendent Bernard Baxter.
Oh, Charlotte, are you all right?
Oh, I'm sorry, but my glass slipped, that's all.
Charlotte, your hands. You really are in no condition.
Just don't bully me, Hilary.
I must explain, Mr. Baxter, that Mrs. Perigord has been under a very severe strain these last few months.
Superintendent Baxter? Now, just a moment, weren't you...
Yes, Rector. The Rosalind Withers case. Yes. Mr. Baxter's picture was all over the papers a couple of Sundays ago. I knew I'd seen him somewhere.
Here's a drink, Mr. Baxter. I'll get that down.
Thank you.
The trial of Inspector Morgan. I suppose you'll be speaking in his defence. A new sensation for you, Mr. Baxter. Giving character evidence, fine upstanding officer and all that.
What a perceptive crime reporter Fleet Street lost in you, Mr. Grinton. And now, landlord, if you help me up to bed.
Right. Now, gently does it, Mr. Baxter. Right.
Thank you.
And repeat the cold compress in the morning.
Now, you take it steady. Find you a stick first thing tomorrow.
And thanks for your kind ministrations, Doctor.
Glad to help.
Watch your step, Superintendent.
I beg your pardon?
The stairs. You seem accident-prone. Well, a celebrity in our midst.
Did you say Rosalind Withers? Was he really mixed up in that affair?
Yes. Mr. Baxter caught the lady. And next week they stretch that lovely slender neck.
Oh, don't be disgusting.
Terrible waist, somehow. I wonder how Baxter feels about it. Hanged on 2 inches of turquoise cotton.
Cotton?
Haven't you followed the case, Doctor?
There's enough pain on my own doorstep, Mr. Grinton.
John Withers, a London schoolmaster, has a beautiful wife, right? 2 children, everything ticking along nicely. Then one day she's off with a young American army lieutenant. Happening all the time. Rosalind Withers wants a divorce. The husband says no. He's a Roman. He wants her back. Anyway, Rosalind goes off to live with her Yank and doesn't see the husband for, 6 months or more. Then Withers is found stabbed to death at home, and it's no time before the police pick the Yank up, and he admits everything. Says Rosalind had nothing to do with it. Wasn't anywhere near the place. The experts go through the house with tooth combs and vacuum cleaners, and Rosalind's in the clear. Nothing to suggest that she'd been there for 6 months.
But Mr. Baxter wasn't satisfied, oh no. He was intent on destroying Rosalind Withers.
Oh, come, Charlotte.
He questioned her for weeks on end. He put her on the rack. And then finally he went back to examine the house again, and he found 2 inches of turquoise cotton. Is that right, Mr. Grinton?
Yes. Tucked down between the cushions of a sofa.
A little cotton thread that came off a skirt Mrs. Withers bought 2 days before the murder.
She said she hadn't been near the place for 6 months. The cotton said otherwise.
And it was enough to convict her as an accessory. He set out deliberately to destroy that woman.
Charlotte, you're getting terribly overwrought.
Are you suggesting that
That he
Mr.
set out to
Baxter-
destroy her, yes. And in the absence of evidence, decided to provide some himself.
Baxter's been highly successful with women.
Women?
Women criminals. Said to have a peculiarly sensitive understanding of the female criminal mind.
He's a monster, don't you see, that man? Oh, my God.
Charlotte, are you all right?
Fresh air. Oh, I must get out of
Come
here.
on, Charlotte, we're taking you home.
Oh, I how brief.
My dear Charlotte, try to calm yourself.
We'll soon have you tucked up in a nice warm bed. Give me a hand, will you, Redford?
Yes.
Can I help?
Mr. Synico and I will manage that. Now, come along,
Oh,
Charlotte.
there you are, my dear.
Why should he come here now? That man knows something.
Now, quiet, Charlotte. We'll soon have you home.
Rose,
Yes, Mr. Grinton?
after that sobering experience, the same again. Hello, it's the artist and his implements.
Ah, evening, Grinton.
Well, Sarum, I suppose you'd like a drink.
You have one on me.
What? Oh, Rose is just getting me one, thanks.
And a pint of bitter for me, Rose. What was all that about? Mrs. Perigord, they were carrying her out.
She had what they call a funny turn.
She's been through the mill, that woman. Can't understand why she stays in this pestilential village.
Take a pew.
I'll just get rid of this gear.
Do you have to drag all that stuff around with you? Easel, paints? Here, let me give you a hand.
I'm not totally helpless.
Here we are. 2 pints of bitter.
Thank you, Rosie. Keep the change.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Sarum.
What's happened? Have you sold a painting?
Let's just say I had a stroke of luck.
Are you going to win that court case against Miss Moraine?
I'm not going to lose it. Cheers.
Here's to art. You been up on the moor tonight?
The moor? Who told you I've been on the moor?
I'm a perambulating antenna. They tell me you're painting the village by moonlight. Been up there 1 or 2 nights now, haven't you? How the hell do you keep from freezing to death?
Brazier. And I keep in the lee of the wall.
This the masterpiece? Could I just have a peep under the cover?
Get your hands off, Grinton.
All right, no need to snap my head off.
It isn't finished.
I'd like to write a piece about you, Sarum, for the paper. You're a colourful village character, you know.
No, thanks.
It could sell a few canvases.
I can survive without that kind of publicity. Penniless, one-armed artist paints village by moonlight rubbish. Can't I find anything better to write about?
In Gimmerbeck? Don't make me laugh, Sarum. Nothing ever happens in Gimmerbeck.
Hello. Hello. Oh, thank God, I thought the line was down. Is that copy? Oh, good morning, Ethel. Stan Grinton, yes. Oh, just 7 or 8 paragraphs, yes. You ready? Right. From Stanley Grinton in Gimmerbeck. Thick snow was today hampering the search for a wealthy woman landowner aged 73 who vanished last night in the small Yorkshire Dales village, no, make that township, the small Yorkshire Dales township of Gimmerbeck, population 410. New Par. As a fierce blizzard swept down from the northeast, painting the landscape white and obliterating almost every landmark, the hunt for Miss Martha Moraine, M for Mary, U-R-R-A-I-N for Nellie, was led by the local mountain rescue team under the command of the rector of Gimmerbeck, the Reverend Arthur Synico, S-I-N for Nellie, I-C-O. New Par. Miss Moraine has not been seen since leaving her home, the Lead Hall, as in lead pencil, on the fringe of Gimmerbeck Moor shortly after 9 o'clock last night. Her housekeeper, Miss Alice Pegg, also 73, says her mistress left home on foot shortly after receiving a telephone call. Police are trying to trace the caller. New Par. Snow started falling at midnight and has now cut the township off from the outside world, with every roadway impassable and drifts of 20 feet reported in exposed places. New Par. Among those stranded in Gimmerbeck is Detective Superintendent Bernard Baxter of Scotland Yard, who was to have travelled on to York today to give evidence for the defence in the trial of a former colleague, Inspector Morgan.
Well, Mr. Baxter, Peter's made you very comfortable. A snug little bedroom to rest up in, a wood fire, a good book. Is it a good one?
Captain Scott's diaries.
What better for the snowbound traveller?
They tell me Miss Moraine's taken it into her head to emulate Captain Oates.
Captain Oates?
When the rations grew short and he was holding up the party.
Oh, yes. He walked out into the snow, didn't he?
I'm just going outside, he said. I may be gone for some time.
And he never came back.
A gallant gentleman, as they say. Where the devil has she gone?
Time will tell, Mr. Baxter. Now, you just rest up for a few days.
I haven't any choice.
No.
It's very kind of you to look in. How'd you get about in this fearful snow?
By horse. Much more reliable than a car.
And how long have you practiced in these parts?
Just over a year. I took over my father's practice when he died. When he killed himself, actually.
Lord, I'm sorry. An accident, you mean?
Actually, no. My father had been overworking pretty drastically all through the war, and at the same time he was trying to build up a pony trekking school. He had this notion that once peace came he'd be able to give up medicine and make a fortune out of horses. That uncanny passion for horseflesh. He built some very beautiful stables and a guest wing, but he overextended himself, physically as well as financially. I don't know why I'm bothering you with all this.
No, go on.
Well, towards the end of the war, he was in the thick of the big typhoid epidemic in Rigworth. He was running his own practice up here during the day and driving down to Rigworth every night to lend a hand in the isolation hospital. He got hardly any sleep, and he wasn't in his first youth, you know. Mm-hmm. My mother died in the middle of all that, and it just poleaxed him. And then, about 18 months ago, 3 children here in the village died of influenza, and it seemed to prey on his mind. He took an overdose a few weeks later.
My God, that is rough. And you were away when all this was going on?
I was serving as a doctor in the Wrens.
Overseas?
I was in Egypt when he died. They let me out to take over his practice.
And the pony trekking school?
Oh, that's gone. When they came to wind up the estate, it turned out Father had sold it to Miss Moraine for hardly anything at all.
Could you pass the salt, Mr. Grinton?
There you are.
Thanks. I can't stand porridge without salt.
I never thought a time would come I'd be having breakfast 2 days running with Baxter the yard.
Have you telephoned your thrilling daily instalment?
Well, I've got to catch up with overnight developments first. They'll never find her, you know.
Really?
Just a feeling I've got. Newsman's nose. She'd have gone down a mine shaft.
Mine shaft?
The lead mines. The moor's riddled with open shafts.
Oh, excuse me. Am I addressing Superintendent Baxter?
Why, yes, Sergeant. Come in. Close the door, will you?
Sir, we've found her. Miss Moraine.
Sorry, Sergeant, I didn't get your name.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir. Titus. John Titus.
Yes, Sergeant Titus.
I've just been on the telephone to the Chief Constable in Rigworth, and I mentioned that you were in the village. He's very anxious for you to take the case over, sir.
The case?
Well, as I'm the only policeman in the place, sir. The roads won't let the detectives in from headquarters.
Tell me what's happened.
About 3/4 of an hour ago, sir, some lads and lasses were skylarking up on the moor road, sledging and snowballing afore they went to school. One of them spotted this snowman in a field, on the right-hand side as you go up, between the little hermitage place and the lead hall.
A snowman?
Sort of leaning against this tree trunk, an old silver birch set well back in the field. So they started snowballing it, this snowman, the lads and lasses did, and a right queer thing happened. Its head came off, only there was another head underneath. The lads and lasses had a bit of a start, because it was a human head. Miss Moraine.
Leaning? Leaning against a tree?
Tied to it. Tied with green baler twine. Those poor wenches were in a terrible way. What with the empty eye sockets, all bloody and gaping. It's not pretty.
What do you mean, empty eye sockets?
Missing, sir. Gone. Pecked out, most likely. Crows. Just like when a sheep's trapped in the snow with its head sticking out. The crows come along and take their eyes.
Mr. Grinton tells me Miss Moraine received a phone call on Monday night.
Yes, sir.
And then went out.
I've been trying to trace the caller, sir.
You've checked with the telephone operator?
Miss Lineburner, she runs the switchboard in the village, says she can't remember anybody making a call.
Can't remember?
Says she makes a point of not interfering in other people's business. Her job's just to put calls through and then wipe her mind clean like a blackboard. So she says.
Have you worked on a murder inquiry before, Titus?
No, sir.
Just enforcing the agricultural bylaws and putting the wind up the poachers, eh?
Oh, well.
How long have you been in the local, Bobby?
I came back in 1945, sir. In November.
Back?
I spent 2 years in the Indian police, sir. On detachment.
But you're a local man?
Yes, sir.
Married?
Yes, sir.
Children?
Well, then.
The sergeant had a boy who died just after the family got back from India. Isn't that right?
Yes.
The outbreak of influenza?
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm very sorry, Titus, but I'd like to know a little about the people I'm working with. Who were the other children, by the way, who died?
The rector's daughter, sir, and Mrs. Perigord at the Shepherd's Pie. She lost her son.
Well, I sympathise with you, Sergeant. Now then, we're just a little under strength, aren't we? Do you write shorthand?
No, sir.
Use a typewriter?
Just 2 fingers.
That's a nuisance, and I can't work from an armchair, despite this idiotic ankle. I'll need a driver.
There's nothing to stop me driving you about, sir.
We won't be able to afford the luxury of going about together, Titus. There are jobs for you and jobs for me. Can you rely on a vehicle to get me through this snow?
You can have my Jeep, sir.
But no driver. Grinton.
Yes?
You know your way around, don't you? You've been trained to observe.
What?
You can take down a shorthand note and rattle a typewriter, can't you?
Now, just 1 minute, Mr.
You can
Baxter.
drive a jeep. Now, you know the people and the territory.
Look, Mr. Baxter, I don't feel inclined to do any dirty work for the police.
Oh, you disappoint me, Grinton.
Eh?
This is a unique chance in the life of a reporter to be right in on the hunt. Think of the story you'll have when it's all over.
Are you serious?
Are you one of those journalists who combined reporting with photography?
Well, yes.
Then you're perfect in every way. Could you go and load your camera, please, and meet us outside in 5 minutes? Oh, and Titus, bring a stiff yard brush with you, will you?
Yard brush, sir?
That's right.
Where are we going?
It's time we had a look at the body. Now, where did I put that confounded walking stick?
Well, here's a picture that will never make the front page.
What'd you say, Grinton?
Head and shoulders close up. Put people off their cornflakes. How many more do you want?
Just fire away until the camera's empty.
Is there any way of telling how long she's been dead, sir?
It's a question of body heat and the degree of rigor mortis, and as she's frozen stiff, that's out of the question. Now, this brush, Sergeant, give it here. This is what I want you to do, see? Just brush the snow away. Gently, like this. Gently does it. There, just like that, until you get to the surface. All round the vicinity of the tree, right? Do it very gently, because what we're looking for might be very small.
Well, what are we looking for?
Just lucky dip, maybe nothing at all.
Right you are, sir.
Baxter.
Yes, all right, I'm coming. I can hobble over there. Well, what is it?
You notice anything funny about the way she's tied up? These knots?
Yes, I've been admiring them.
And look at the gag. A bit of twig pushed through the knot.
Yes, a very cunning slip knot. If I remove the twig and pull this little tag, the gag would just come undone without any effort. I think we'll find her hands are tied behind her in the same way. Now, come, round the other side of the tree. There, see? The killer got her standing against the tree and walked in circles, winding the baler twine round her and the tree a few times. Not too tight, you see, just so that it secured her without cutting into the flesh. And look how it's all tied up. One efficient little knot behind the tree.
And a twig.
A twig to stop it slipping. Just take out that twig and pull the end of the twine, and she'd undo like a statue unveiled by royalty.
But what's the idea?
You tell me.
Sir.
Yes, Sergeant?
Blood, sir.
All right, I'm coming. Oh, this blasted ankle. Now, where's this blood?
There, sir. Under the eyes.
2 bright red spots. Bring that toolbox over, will you?
Did you say blood? Where?
There, see? 2 little red spots, smaller than farthings. What would you say? 8 to 10 feet from the body.
Is that blood?
I doubt it.
Here's the toolbox, sir.
Chisel and mallet, please. Right. Now, we'll just chip out this little square of ice. There. Now, to lift her up tenderly. Got it. 2 little red spots sandwiched between 2 little panes of ice. Jolly pretty. Titus, just slide your hand inside my breast pocket, will you? You'll find a sheet of white paper and an envelope.
Here we are, sir.
Thank you. Now, I'll put the little pane of ice on the paper and fold it once, twice, 3 times, and into the envelope. Fine. Here you are, Sergeant.
Well, what do I do with this?
Take it back to the mortal man. I'll pick it up when we get back. Oh, and measure the distance from here to the body.
But, sir...
Yes, Titus?
It'll melt. The ice inside the envelope.
Yes, that's right. Now, come on, Grinton. I'm afraid I'll have to lean on you again. We'll see you at lunchtime, Sergeant.
Where are you going now, Mr. Baxter?
To see Miss Moraine's housekeeper at the Lead Hall. Knock again, Grinton. I gather the old girl's a bit on the deaf side. What on earth happened over there?
Oh, the stables. They burned down, more than a year ago.
Any horses killed?
No, it was converted to living quarters years back. Nobody there at the time of the fire, though. Oh, well, I can hear somebody coming.
Ah, Mr. Baxter, good morning. And Mr. Grinton.
Well, Rector. You certainly cover your parish.
Mr. Baxter, I'm very much afraid the housekeeper, Miss Pegg's, taken the news rather badly.
Oh, yes?
She had a sort of blackout. She's on the settee. I've covered her with a blanket and sent for Dr. Dunsany. Oh, yes, well, you'd better come in. Well, there she is.
Looks as if she's given up the ghost.
That doctor had better be quick. What the hell did you say to her, Synico?
I broke the news as gently as I could.
What business is it of yours? Who told you about this murder, anyway?
There's no need to take that unpleasant line, Mr. Baxter. Consoling the bereaved is one of my duties. And I imagine Sergeant Titus told me the body had been found so that I could call off the search.
Where did Miss Moraine keep her private papers, do you know?
Really, Mr. Baxter, my knowledge of this house is as slight as yours.
There's a room there marked office.
Well, come on. And you, Rector. Ah, yes. Here we are. Now, come in, Rector.
Oh, very nice. A lovely outlook, too.
Stand still for a moment, both of you.
I beg your pardon?
What do you make of that? On the carpet, over by the desk.
What? Oh, a damp patch. Look, and another one here.
Imagine mucking up a beautiful antique carpet like this, with wet boots. Doesn't it offend your aesthetic sensibilities, Rector?
I've no idea what you're driving at, Mr. Baxter.
Of course, you've never been in this room, have you?
No.
I have it. Miss Pegg took a stroll in the snow, and then came in here to wipe her shoes on this handsome bit of Aubusson. Do you know anything about paintings, Rector?
Not as much as I'd like.
These two, for example. Now look. Unless I'm mistaken, they're very fine.
I wouldn't know, Mr. Baxter.
In fact, this one's a Delacroix.
Really?
Yes, and this one... yes, a Turner.
Oh, you're obviously an expert, Mr. Baxter.
Well, it doesn't take an expert to recognize a Turner. What were you doing in here before we arrived, Rector?
I tell you, I've never entered this room before.
Looking for letters, perhaps?
Letters?
Because if so, you might have tried the bookshelves. Look behind you, the two bottom rows, indexed box files, dozens of them. Ah, yes, that'll be the doctor. You'd better let her in.
Of course.
Right. Bring one of those files over, Grinton. Let's see if it tells us anything.
This is the last load, Mr. Baxter.
You're doing a good job, Constable Grinton. I'm just admiring Dr. Dunsany's pony.
Mr. Grinton! Oh, hello, Superintendent.
Good morning, Doctor.
What is Mr. Grinton doing with all those boxes?
They're box files. Miss Moraine's private correspondence for the last 40-odd years. I'm taking them away to study at my leisure.
41 boxes of bump.
It's an absolutely appalling thing to have happened.
Surprising it didn't happen long ago.
What do you mean?
She was a first-class candidate for murder. How's Miss Pegg?
Well, she's had a terrible shock, but she'll pull through all right. I'm getting a woman from the village to come and look after her.
I'd like to ask her a few questions.
I'll give her a couple of days to get over it.
Of course, of course. I'm just admiring your pony.
Victoria? There, girl. We'll be off in a minute. I put more faith in Victoria than in any motor car.
A fell pony, isn't she?
Yes. Born wild up in the Lakeland fells. Do you know about horses?
I had a brief spell with the mounted police in the remote past. I say, it's a very ingenious little knot you've hitched her up with. You noticed it, Grinton?
Pardon? By George,
yes, it's a clever little slip knot. Held secure by a pencil, isn't it?
Oh, that, yes. It's just to facilitate a quick getaway. Look, I'll get on and show you. There, little lady. Now, see, I just removed the pencil. So, and we're free to go. Goodbye, gentlemen. See you later, no doubt.
No doubt.
Now, here's your coffee, gents. Was lunch all right?
Went down a treat, me old lad.
What's all that racket in the tap room?
It's the men from the mill, Mr. Baxter. It seems as soon as the news trickled into the mill, they all down tools. You can't move for 'em in the tap room.
What? They just walked out?
Declared it a holiday. It's not been like this since VE night. Just ring if you want anything else.
Celebrating. You're going to be unpopular, Mr. Baxter.
Oh?
If you catch him. They want to hang a medal round his neck, not a rope.
You seem very sure we're looking for a man.
What? A woman? You think a woman's capable of a crime like this?
I'm keeping an open mind.
Excuse me, sir.
Please come in, Sergeant. Anything fresh?
All the telephones are down, sir.
My God, the first time in my life I get a decent scoop and the telephones go dead on me.
And we found this, sir.
What is it?
It's Miss Moraine's hat, sir.
A red hat. Where was it?
At the base of the tree, under the snow.
No snow under it.
No, sir. It must have come off before the snow started.
And so she was there before the snow came down, which was midnight, wasn't it?
Yes, sir. Oh, you asked me to hold on to this envelope for you, sir. The blood.
Ah, yes. Give it here, will you?
Do you mind, Mr. Baxter? I've just had lunch.
Look the other way if it upsets you. Now, open up. Well. You can look now, Grinton.
No, thanks.
It isn't blood, Grinton. Our two little spots of crimson are still bright and intact. Blood would have watered down when the ice melted.
What is it, then?
Is there by any chance an artist living in Gimmerbeck?
An artist?
This is paint. Oil paint. You say the wife's a bit feeble-minded?
Very beautiful, but very childish. Miss Moraine ran rings round her.
Yes?
Mrs. Sarum, is your husband at home?
George went down by the river with his sketching book. Who are you?
I'm a policeman. Can we come in?
Police? Well, George says that rent business is all finished with. Now Miss Moraine's dead, we're in the clear.
No, it isn't about your rent, Mrs. Sarum.
Well, I paid the rent, honestly, sir. She wrote it down with a pencil and then rubbed it out.
Let us in, woman. Can't you see we're shaking with cold? Come on, Grinton.
Well, George said to let no one in. What is it you want?
Just show me where your husband keeps his painting things, his studio.
Listen, Baxter, don't you need a search warrant for this?
Do you suggest we have one dropped by parachute? What's through here?
Well, you can't go in there, sir. George doesn't allow anybody in there.
Yes. Ah, well, this is it, Grinton. Come and take a look.
I say, there must be hundreds of canvases in here.
An industrious man, George Sarum.
Well, what are you looking for?
His work in progress, yes. The easel, over there by the window.
It's covered up.
Well, let's have a look at it. Take the cover off.
Good grief.
Miss Moraine, in her death agony.
But good grief, man, he must have been there.
Ah. And before the snow came down. Still wearing her hat. He's rather good, isn't he?
What?
Well, look at that detail. The effect of the frost on the grass in the moonlight. All he's left out are the crocuses.
Crocuses?
The field was scattered with clumps of yellow crocuses before the snow came down and covered them.
Susan, what's that jeep doing outside?
It's the police, George. A policeman's here.
Police? What the hell are you doing in my workroom?
How do you do, Mr. Sarum? My name's Baxter, Detective Superintendent. I think you know Mr. Grinton. We've just been admiring your study of Miss Moraine.
Get out of here. Go on out.
Just as soon as you explain this painting.
Imagination.
Oh, try again, Mr. Sarum.
Imagination. Together with what I pieced together from the villagers who saw the body.
Well, when you're ready to tell me the real story, you'll find me at the Mortal Man, Mr. Sarum.
I'm an artist, Mr. Baxter. I've got a very powerful imagination.
Obviously, yes. Come on, Grinton. Good night, Mrs. Sarum. All right, Sergeant. Now that we've cleared the decks a little, here's what I want you to start doing tomorrow. I want a railway timetable of everybody's movements in Gimmerbeck on Monday night.
Timetable, sir?
See every adult in the village and make a list of everything they did and the exact time they did it from 9 o'clock until midnight.
That's over 300 people, sir.
Well, take your time. Nobody's going to run away from here. I'll be spending the next couple of days combing through Miss Moraine's correspondence. When I've finished that, you can start bringing the villagers in for a chat with me.
All of them, sir?
One by one. You can get off home now, Sergeant. It's getting on for 10.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, and keep your eyes open, would you, for anybody who's in the habit of using green baler twine.
Right, sir. Good night. Good night, Mr. Brinton.
Night, Sergeant.
Pour me another scotch, will you, Brinton?
I still don't see why you can't arrest George Sarum without going through all this rigmarole.
Could you tie those fancy little knots if you only had one arm?
Well, he had an accomplice, didn't he? You know, you're not a bit like I'd imagined you'd be.
Oh, really?
Yeah, from that newspaper piece I read about you. Baxter, the scourge of the female criminal. I thought you'd be, well, brutal, a fire-eater. You were brought up in an orphanage, weren't you? Won scholarships to Oxford.
Bernardo's to Balliol. Give me another drink.
All those women you sent down the line. Doesn't it give you a few sleepless nights?
No.
Don't you ever feel inclined to, well, to extend a bit of mercy?
Mercy? I've never observed much mercy in women, have you?
Well...
You can get more mercy from a cage full of Bengal tigers.
Well, take Rosalind Withers. A lovely young woman like that.
Ah, do you think youth and beauty should make us overlook wicked conduct? She didn't show much mercy when she abandoned her children, did she? Oh, I know what you're thinking, Grinton. Did he plant that piece of turquoise cotton that got her convicted?
It never crossed my mind.
Well, what if I had, eh? But as it happens, I didn't. Shall I tell you something about Rosalind Withers? She said to me one day when we were alone for a moment, "Yes, I was there. Baxter, you bastard. But you're never going to prove it."
Rosalind Withers did?
But I did prove it, Grinton. Mercy, a woman like that.
Listen. What's that?
What? Oh, it's a brass band on the wireless.
No, hark. It's outside. It's coming this way.
So it is.
I'll open these curtains and take a look-see. If you can stand the draught.
Open away. I've become impervious to cold.
Can't see a sausage. Frosted over.
Open the window.
Catch is stiff. Come on, open. Ah, got it. My God, the mill band.
Marching through the snow.
Up to their ankles. They must be mad. Look, there's a bonfire up the road. People linking hands and circling round the fire.
A village celebration.
Talk about pagan rites.
They're stopping. By the fire. I wonder if George Sarum's there. Orange flames, black sky, the perfect picture for his clever brush. Snowflakes drifting down into the euphoniums. Who's that playing the cornet?
Cornet? Oh, that'll be Norman Minshall. He's a great cornet player, they say.
One of the mill hands?
Yes, all the band are mill hands. Minshall's a great one for odd jobs as well. There's a lot of foreigners in the village.
He's pouring his heart out of that cornet.
I know. The Gimmerbeck British Wool Brass Bandit are in.
I don't want to appear rude, Superintendent, but I have already given an account of my movements to Sergeant Titus. And I have a surgery overflowing with patients waiting to see me.
Laryngitis?
What?
Or possibly lockjaw?
Lockjaw?
Inability to talk. Dozens of them coming down with it.
Oh.
I've questioned, over 100 people in the last 3 days. Can't get a word out of them.
They're a bit on guard with off-comers.
A man with a suspicious mind would diagnose a conspiracy of silence, eh, Grinton?
The last 3 days have been a complete washout, unless I blinked once and missed something.
However, you say you went to Aysgarth?
Yes.
What for?
To visit a patient. She used to live in the village, and when she moved to Aysgarth, my father went on attending her.
You started back. At what time?
You've got it written down there.
Remind me.
I left Aysgarth at about 8. The snow had just started.
And then you rode back over the moor?
Yes.
Did you see anybody?
Where?
On the moor.
On the moor?
George Sarum was painting on the moor that night.
It's a big moor, Mr. Baxter.
You left the moor and rode down into the village.
Yes.
Past Miss Moraine's house?
Yes.
Past the field where she was tied to the tree?
Well,
Yes.
if she was tied to the tree by that time, how do I know?
And she left home shortly after 9, and you arrived here at the Mortal Man about 9:30 to 9:45.
Yes.
And yet you saw no sign of her.
I saw no sign of her, Mr. Baxter.
You could only have missed her by a matter of minutes, couldn't you?
But I did miss her, Mr. Baxter. I assure you, I did miss her.
It's very good of you to come through this appalling snow, Mrs. Perigord. Won't you sit down? And you, Rector. There. By the way, do you mind Mr. Grinton taking notes?
Notes about what, Mr. Baxter?
Well, just in case anything that might be useful crops up. You know, we've had something like 300 people in here for questioning over the last few days, and Grinton's faithfully recorded their every syllable. Would either of you like a drink, by the way?
It's only 5 o'clock, Mr. Baxter. The bar isn't open yet.
I have my own supply.
Not for me, thank you.
Mrs. Perigord, a small whiskey?
Well, thank you.
Yes. This weather chills the heart, doesn't it? I don't know how you feel, but I feel entombed in this place. There you are, Mrs. Perigord.
Thank you.
Yes. 7 solid days of snow and ice. They tell me half a dozen wild ponies were found dead standing on their feet on the edge of the fell this morning. Huddled together for warmth, poor devils. And we'd be in much the same way if the RAF hadn't dropped us those consignments of food.
Could we come down to brass tacks, Mr. Baxter?
Why, yes, Mrs. Perigord, of course. Could you tell me why Miss Moraine was blackmailing you?
I beg your pardon?
Miss Moraine kept a copy of every letter she wrote over the last 40 years or more. Just let me read one to you. Now, this is dated the 9th of January, 1946. About a month after your son died, I think. Dear Madam, I am, as you know, ever desirous of diversifying my interests in this dale, and the Shepherd's Pie restaurant seems to me an investment which could be put on a sound footing given the benefit of my business acumen. I therefore propose purchasing a 50% share in the establishment, and for this I would pay £800. I think our partnership would stand proof against anything but a visitation of pestilence.
I don't call that blackmail. I call it impudence.
How much did you pay for the Shepherd's Pie?
£3,000.
And when was that?
I came here 3 years ago, February 1944. My husband was killed in the Western Desert the summer before. Had to do something to support my child, Mr. Baxter. You know, a lady ruined by the war and forced to turn her hand to trade.
Miss Moraine wasn't discouraged by your first refusal, was she? By your repeated refusals, in fact. Look, more letters. They came at roughly monthly intervals, and each time, this is the thing I find really puzzling, the price she offers becomes smaller. £750, £600, and always that curious remark at the end of her letters, I think our partnership would stand proof against anything but a visitation of pestilence. And then finally, 2 weeks ago, she offered £500 and wrote as follows: failing settlement on these terms within 28 days, the consequences will be as unpleasant as a visitation of pestilence. Now, can you tell me what she means? Pestilence.
She was mad, Mr. Baxter. Isn't that obvious?
Could I turn to you, Mr. Seinico? Perhaps you could tell me why Miss Moraine was blackmailing you.
Mr. Baxter, you really have entered the realms of fantasy and penny dreadfuls.
Would you describe yourself as a rich man, Rector?
I keep my head above the tide.
You inherited a large sum 3 or 4 years ago. How much was that? Well?
£19,000.
And some paintings, I think.
Just 2?
A Turner and a Delacroix, in fact.
Yes.
Which we saw the other day at Miss Moraine's.
Yes.
I have a letter here where Miss Moraine offers to give them wall space. She says the rectory is unsuitable, too damp. And if anything happened to the paintings, it would be as distressing as, here it is again, a visitation of pestilence. Did she take the £19,000 as well?
Why on earth should she do that?
You still have it?
I'm afraid I gambled it all away, Mr. Baxter.
That was good going. The visitation of a pestilence, Rector, what does that mean?
I really don't know, Mr. Baxter. Could it be gambling, do you think?
We struggled up the hill to see Miss Moraine's housekeeper yesterday, didn't we, Grinton? Miss Pegg. She's still very low, Rector, but she did manage to tell us what Miss Moraine said about that telephone call that took her out of the house on the night she died. The fools agreed to settle. That's all she said. And then she put on her hat and coat and went out. The fools agreed to settle. Now, it could mean one fool or several, couldn't it? And then Miss Pegg said something very curious. I happened to mention the fire that destroyed the stables at the Lead Hall, and she said it was a mercy it hadn't happened while the sick children were still there. I asked what sick children she meant, and she broke down. I couldn't get any more out of her. Could either of you enlighten me about these sick children? No, I thought not. On our way back from the Lead Hall, I decided it was time I had a look inside the little hermitage. I understand it's church property, Rector. I'm afraid I had to pick the lock.
That was an unwarranted trespass, Superintendent.
What would you call it? A shrine? We found these 3 photographs on the, well, what do you call it, the altar? 3 children.
Why couldn't you leave the place in peace?
I had to identify the photographs. Grinton didn't recognize any of them.
And now you know, Mr. Baxter.
Yes, the landlord identified them. Your son, Mrs. Perigord, and your daughter, Mr. Sineco, and I believe this is the son of Sergeant Titus.
We committed no crime, Mr. Baxter. I don't see what connection there can be between our private griefs and your inquiry.
You don't? A shrine? A shrine where you went secretly, the 2 of you and Sergeant Titus? Where you went by night, furtively, to light candles and kneel before the images of your dead children? Why? To seek their forgiveness? To make atonement to them? To salve your consciences?
They died young. They were all we had.
Influenza? You still mean to tell me they died of influenza?
You could see the death certificates.
Ah, signed by Dr. Dunsany Sr.?
Yes.
Who shortly afterwards killed himself. The man who took your children to the Lead Hall, where the stables were hastily turned into a hospital for treatment which ended in the death of all 3.
They died of influenza.
And yet you carried on this highly peculiar and what seems to me very unhealthy form of child worship. And you go on torturing yourself, Mrs. Perigord. Your nerves have been in shreds ever since, and if I'm not mistaken, you go in for a good deal of drinking.
Oh, really, Baxter?
I lost my husband and then my son. Wouldn't you drink?
All right. Just one more question for the moment. Mrs. Perigord, I understand you've been making big changes at the Shepherd's Pie.
We're extending into the barn, yes.
It gives plenty of work to a handyman like Norman Minchell, doesn't it?
Minchell?
Yes, quite apart from his job at the mill, I believe he's a one-man building and joinery firm. He's doing your extension, isn't he?
Yes.
Now, I see from your statement to Sergeant Titus that on Monday you were at home all evening at the Shepherd's Pie until about 9:45.
Yes.
And then you came here to the Mortal Man for a nightcap with Mr. Sineco. You may remember, we met briefly.
We spent the evening going through the parish accounts.
In your living quarters over the restaurant?
Yes, yes.
And you can corroborate that, Rector?
That's what happened.
Well, it's just that Norman Minchell claims he called at the Shepherd's Pie about 8:30 and could get no answer.
But he never comes on Mondays.
He said he'd left his spirit level behind. He needed it for some other foreigner he was working on. There was a light burning upstairs, but he could get no answer.
I do believe the wireless may have been on rather loud.
He returned again at 9:30. Light still burning, but no response to repeated knocking and ringing.
Oh, Mr. Minchell must be confused.
Why do you keep baler twine, Mrs. Perigord?
Baler twine?
Green baler twine. Grinton and I happened to take a look round your outbuildings a couple of days ago. It was Grinton who came across it, a roll of green baler twine.
You searched my outbuildings? Why?
It was in the old saddle room.
But that faces onto the road. The doors are never locked. Don't you see? Anybody could have gone in there and taken it.
What do you need with baler twine?
I use it to cover lampshades, to make table Oh, what are they trying to do to me?
Oh, just keep calm, Charlotte. You're perfectly innocent.
Oh, innocence means nothing to him, can't you see? A couple of yards of baler twine, 2 inches of turquoise cotton. He'll do anything to hang a woman, don't you understand?
Oh, Charlotte, keep your head.
Perhaps she'd like another glass of whiskey.
You really are beneath contempt, aren't you, Baxter? Come on, Charlotte. I'm taking you home.
Oh, why does he want to hang me?
Come on, out of here. There's nothing he can do to hurt you. I assure you.
All right, I'm coming. Now, what's all this about? Grinton!
Let me in, Titus, quick.
Listen, it's after 1 a.m. That's right. Knock your snow all over the carpet.
Titus, listen. He's gone up to the church.
Baxter has?
I thought I'd better warn you.
The church? Well, then he'll kill himself. Save us all a lot of heartache, won't he?
He's gone on a ruddy horse.
He's what?
He was sitting there all night, after the rector and Mrs. Perigord had gone, staring into the fire and swigging his whisky. And then, about half an hour ago, he suddenly turned to me and said, the parish registers.
Parish registers?
He said the rector would have entered the true cause of the deaths in the parish registers.
Clever swine.
Did he?
God knows.
And then he got me to drive him to Dr. Dunsany's. He borrowed her pony and started off up the hill.
She let him go?
He was in no mood for arguing.
OK. Now listen, Grinton. Go and tell the rector what's happened. Tell him to get his climbing gear on and meet me at the bridge as soon as he can.
That's a lethal-looking shotgun you've got on the wall, Sergeant.
Shotgun? Don't tempt me, Grinton. Now move, man.
Titus! Titus! Not so fast.
Are you all right, Mr. Sinico?
I keep losing sight of you. This confounded snow. My glasses have fogged over.
Only a few yards now.
I'm whacked, Titus.
Quiet. We're nearly there. Look.
What is it?
A light. In the church.
So, Baxter made it. Any sign of the horse? Listen.
Tapping. Kind of hammering.
It's coming from the graveyard. Look. A little light glowing in the graveyard.
He's got a lamp. What's he up to? Come on, let's get a bit nearer.
Quietly now.
God, I walked straight into the pony. I didn't see it.
Quiet.
He's going this way.
Who's there? Hello? Who's there? I've got a gun and I know where you are. Now, who's there?
It's all right, Baxter. We're over here.
Sinico?
And Sergeant Titus. We were worried about you.
Well, that's very considerate of you.
You can put the gun away, Mr. Baxter.
Gun? What's this? Take a closer look.
A hammer?
Yes, I've got a chisel too. You see, Rector, I was looking for your parish registers and hadn't banked on that strong old safe you keep in your vestry. I take it the registers are in the safe?
Yes.
You must prize them highly. So I thought I'd take a look at the gravestones of your children and see if the inscriptions gave any hint of the way they died. The stones are thick with ice. I've been trying to chip it off to see what's underneath.
Our children were cremated. They have no gravestones.
Then I've been wasting my time, haven't I? Come on. I want you to open that safe.
Typhoid fever.
Yes, Mr. Baxter.
Down here in your own very neat hand. All 3 of them died from typhoid fever.
That doesn't make us murderers, sir.
I take it your religious scruples prevented you from hiding the truth in a document kept lying in the church, Mr. Sinico.
Our children's deaths and Miss Moraine's are unconnected.
I'm going to have the full truth from all of you.
Mr. Baxter, listen.
Not tonight. Tomorrow. Sleep on it, the pair of you. I want you all in the Mortal Man at 10 in the morning.
All of us?
I want Mrs. Perigord and Dr. Dunsany there as well, and George Selwyn. And now, if you're fit, we'll be moving.
You're taking the register?
Naturally.
You have another register there, Mr. Baxter, an old one. You surely don't need that.
Don't tell me what I want, huh? Now, if you're ready, you can follow the horse. She'll show you the way down.
We'll make our own way, Superintendent.
You'll come with me.
Well, Mrs. Perigord?
Yes, Superintendent?
It's 10:10. Where have the rector and Sergeant Titus got to?
I haven't seen them since 8 o'clock this morning. They said they'd try to be here on time.
Try? Where have they gone?
They didn't tell me.
And Serum, do you know where he is?
No.
Dr. Dunsany, do you know anything about this?
Perhaps they overslept. They were up most of the night, weren't they?
Very amusing. Grinton?
Couldn't say, Mr. Baxter.
By God, it bites your face off out there.
Serum, have you seen the rector and Sergeant Titus?
No, why? Have they stood you up? Let me get to that fire.
You're late.
There's a blizzard, hadn't you noticed? Kept blowing me back home. What's all this about, anyway?
Will you all sit down? We'll have to make a start without them. That's right.
Close to the fire. Put another log on, will you, Sarum? I hope your pencils are sharpened, Grinton.
Ready when you are.
Right. We all know by now there's been a conspiracy in this village to cover up an epidemic of typhoid fever. The question is whether this, in its turn, led to a conspiracy to murder.
Mr. Baxter?
Yes, Doctor?
Did you say typhoid fever?
Dr. Dunsany pretends ignorance.
It isn't pretense. Hilary knows nothing about it.
Really? Well, perhaps you could enlighten her, Mrs. Perigord.
Charlotte, what in heaven's name does he mean, typhoid?
Well, it started... Does Mr. Grinton really have to write all this down?
Of course.
It all started when Sergeant Titus came back from India. Oh, the foolish man was too impatient, that's all. They told him he'd have to wait for a passage, but he was anxious to get home. His wife hated the climate. And so he approached some people he knew in the RAF, and they arranged him a series of hops home by aeroplane. None of this would have happened if he'd waited for the boat. There'd have been medical checks. We could see his boy was none too well as soon as he got here, but we put it down to the long journey. He played with our children a couple of times, Arthur Synico's and mine, and then he collapsed. Dr. Dunsany had a look at him, and that same night he called us all together at the Lead Hall.
All of you?
The rector, Sergeant Titus, and me. And Miss Moraine.
Why Miss Moraine?
Because of the mill. Dr. Dunsany was proposing to close it down till all the workers had been given medical clearance.
Ah, yes. Go on, please.
Miss Moraine had different ideas. Oh, we were fools to listen to her, but we were distracted out of our minds. And she made it all sound so plausible. It was December 1945, remember? People were planning their first holidays after the war. We'd been looking forward to a highly profitable season. It wasn't even Christmas, and the summer bookings were unbelievable. Miss Moraine said that the very mention of typhoid would ruin all that. And then she turned to Dr. Dunsany and asked him if he hadn't worked on typhoid cases. And when he said he had, but the patients had to be isolated, she asked what was wrong with her stable block. And it just snowballed from there.
Dr. Dunsany was thinking of the capital he'd sunk into his pony trekking.
Oh, it wasn't just that. He genuinely believed he could cope.
I don't see why Sergeant Titus agreed to this. A criminal deception.
Titus came into the country by the back door, don't you see? He'd already committed a serious offence by sidestepping the medical procedure for entering the country.
And the rector?
Well, Arthur had very serious reservations, but he could see it would mean disaster for the village if the news got out. He said we'd just come through a hard war and we deserved some reward. And he had faith in Dr. Dunsany.
But everything went wrong.
It all turned into a nightmare.
3 children died. The stable block was burned down because it had been infected by a visitation of pestilence. And Dr. Dunsany, already at the end of his tether because of what he'd done to those children, was sucked dry by Miss Moraine and decided to put an end to himself. Well, Doctor, you had a very powerful motive.
Yes, Mr. Baxter. And if I'd known about it, I wouldn't have hesitated.
You sins?
At times, it may not be a sin at all.
And you, Sarum? Do you share that dangerous view?
Absolutely.
Perhaps now you're ready to tell me how you came to paint that remarkable picture of Miss Moraine.
I'd have thought you'd have worked that out by now, Baxter. All right. I was up on the moor painting when something caught my eye. You have a superb panoramic view of the village up there. Something was moving down towards the village. Something red bobbing along among the shadows on the moor road. That's Miss Moraine, I thought. Red hat. Now, where's she off to? None of this was any too clear, mind you. It was mostly obscured by shadows and trees, and she was a good half-mile below me. But the hat kept showing in the moonlight. Next time I looked up, she'd stopped at the field gate. Then I saw that red hat moving into the field, and that did make me sit up a bit. And there was just a vague impression of another figure moving along behind her, but At that moment the moon went behind a cloud. I started packing up my gear. Oh, and then I heard a horse coming over the moor.
Yes.
Dr. Dunsany. She went off down the road towards the village. On my way home, I had a nose round the field to see what had been going on. There she was, trussed like a turkey and stone dead.
Dead?
Died of fright, didn't she? You don't think I'd have left her there if she'd been alive?
Wouldn't you?
To be honest, I don't know.
So, you calmly set about painting her picture?
It was a magnificent subject, Baxter. And to me it was like dancing on a coffin.
Why didn't you report this to anybody?
And give the good man who did it no chance to cover his tracks. I'm not inclined to hand anybody over to so-called justice.
Justice has a way of catching up. Cynico.
Oh, good morning.
Titus, where in God's name have you two been?
I'm sorry we're late, sir.
Nowhere of importance, Baxter, I assure you. We were just unavoidably delayed. Please go on with what you were saying.
I was just about to say, Rector, that justice has a way of catching up, and that the feeblest prosecution could tear all your stories into snowflakes. None of you. You, Rector, Mrs. Perigord, Titus, Sarum, Dr. Dunsany, none of you can give a faintly credible account of your movements on the night of Miss Moraine's death.
Excuse me, Mr. Baxter, but Mrs. Perigord and the rector were with me, sir, at the Hermitage.
Which is what, 200 yards from where the body was found?
And then there's the question of your movements. Isn't there, Mr. Baxter?
My movements?
Well, sir, your story was that you were trying to get up to the church that night, to look at a Norman doorway. Only nobody saw you, did they?
We've just been up to the church again, Baxter. That's why we were a little late.
What?
To discover what you were hammering away at in the churchyard last night. Your story about trying to read the inscriptions on our children's graves rang terribly false, you know. At any rate, we soon discovered the gravestone you'd been trying to deface. We interrupted you before you could obliterate the name, didn't we? The grave of a woman who froze to death nearly 40 years ago when she was turned out of her cottage by Miss Moraine. A woman named Baxter. Your mother, Mr. Baxter? Could somebody give Mr. Baxter a glass of whiskey?
Here, I'll do it. There. Get that down you, Mr. Baxter.
Thanks, Grinton.
That old church register you brought down with you last night, Mr. Baxter, that was for 1909, wasn't it? The record of her burial. I suppose you've torn the page out and burnt it. A pity, that.
What led to these, speculations?
It was something you said to Mr. Grinton. You said the field was full of crocuses, yellow crocuses, before the snow came down. Except, as far as anyone knew, you never saw the field till it was covered in snow.
I could have cut my tongue out the moment I said it. Grinton didn't seem to notice.
And since then we have been wondering about you, Mr. Baxter. But we were far from sure. We couldn't understand why. We haven't your brilliant analytical mind.
No, my God, you haven't. Mind is lacking. Guts is lacking. Heart is lacking. A population of 400 fools and cowards.
Cowards, Mr. Baxter? It wasn't we who murdered an old woman in cold blood.
40 years. And what opposition did you put up?
Oh, what are you suggesting, that we should have murdered her?
How many lives had she ruined and destroyed?
Civilized people are held back, Mr. Baxter, by their consciences.
While their families and neighbours suffer, and the wicked thrive. If you tolerate evil, don't you see, you're laying up trouble for everybody. There wasn't one man among you with the guts to say enough.
So you calmly planned to come here and commit murder and place the blame on us?
You're the guilty ones, morally. That's why I wanted you in the dock, and I think I could have brought it off, but for that one slip of the tongue, I'd have been well pleased to see you hang the whole village, if necessary, for cowardice in the face of the enemy. But planned? No. No, it wasn't planned. It was quite spontaneous. You'd better write this down in your notebook, Grinton.
Mr. Baxter, I'm going to have to ask you...
Let him finish, Sergeant.
No, it wasn't planned. I wasn't aware of Miss Moraine's existence until I arrived here that night. I knew my mother was buried at the church here, but little of her history. Didn't care, as a matter of fact. All I knew was that she abandoned me when I was 6 years old. I remember that very clearly. Her dumping me on a neighbour. and not coming back. All my life, I had never forgiven her for that. Anyway, I was in Rigworth, and I decided to pay a call on my birthplace, visit her grave. And then when I got here, I heard the full story. And I just decided that woman had to be taken care of. It was done on impulse, like all the best murders. I phoned her up and said I'd give her the £50 she wanted for the damage to her car. That woman would have gone anywhere for £50. Remember what she told her housekeeper? The fools agreed to settle. I walked up the hill, working out how I'd do it. Everything seemed to be on my side, no people about. I needed a rope, and the saddle room door was open at the Shepherd's Pie. I cut off a length of baler twine and carried on up the hill. After that, it was a piece of cake. She was just as weak and pathetic as all of you are when it actually came down to it. Went meekly as a lamb. I tied her up and finished it off with slip knots. The plan was to come back here and then go out to her at 4 in the morning. She'd be dead by then. I was going to untruss her. Those knots come apart quite easily, don't they, Doctor? And then leave her lying in the field as though she'd simply frozen to death. Had a fall, possibly, or some kind of seizure. By 7, I'd have been away from here. By the time anybody got suspicious, if they ever did, I'd have been forgotten. But I sprained my ankle on the way back. No chance of getting out at 4 to tidy her up. And then the snow came down.
And then the snow came down.
And it's still coming down. You know, the moor, all at once, seems a very attractive place. Nothing but miles of clean snow.
Mr. Baxter, where do you think you're going?
Have you ever heard of Captain Oates, Sergeant?
Captain Oates?
Let him pass, Sergeant.
Thank you, Rick. I'm just going outside. I may be some time.
Well, what now?
Somebody put a log on the fire. It's gone very chilly in here.
In Colder Than of Late by Ken Whitmore, Detective Superintendent Baxter was played by John Franklin Robbins. Sarah Minchell was Judith Barker, Norman Minchell and George Sarum, Russell Dixon, Martha Moraine, Sheila Price, Peter and Sergeant Titus, John Jardine, Stanley Grinton, Harry Beattie, Arthur Synico, Ronald Herdman, Charlotte Perigord and Susan Sarum, Heather Stoney, Dr. Dunsany and Rose, Bonnie Hurren.
This will be your first Christmas in England, Mr. Gingrich.
Yes, you know, it's exactly like the Christmas cards. Snow, red berries and robins. Marina told me not to expect all this.
Yes, the snow's exactly on cue for one.
We got here just ahead of it.
It saw you arrive and then descended.
Of course, you must remember Mr. Gingrich is one of America's finest magicians. Perhaps he arranged it all himself.
Perhaps it's one of his illusions.
No, I'm good, but not that good.
Colonel Victor Grace threw a party last Christmas at his home in the Westmoreland Hills. It's a plain but substantial house, built of the local stone and standing in a somewhat overgrown acre of garden, 3 miles from the nearest village and 11 from Bexenholme railway station. 4 guests were invited for the holiday weekend. The Colonel's daughter-in-law, Marina Grace, her friend and partner, Mr. Fred Gingrich, known as the modern Houdini, our chief constable, Lionel Munro, and finally, myself. I am the Colonel's sister, by profession a forensic surgeon employed by the Home Office, spinster, somewhat scarred of face, living alone. It was a luxury to be pampered by Victor's servants. I think especially of the cooking of his man, Albert. But one of our party had little appetite at dinner on Christmas Eve, Marina, who asked to be excused quite early. I remember the young maid, Ella, in her brown uniform, leaving the room towards the end of the meal. I must reconstruct what happened next, because there's no direct evidence. But it seems that Ella entered the library with a tray of coffee cups. She placed the tray on a table. And then, imagining herself safe from interruption, she began rifling my brother's desk. She had not found what she was after when the French window behind her was suddenly thrown open from the outside.
Oh, my God! What's this then?
My God, Albert!
Well, is this how you say thank you to the man who got you out of prison? Pilfering his desk?
I ain't pilfering. Blimey, my body's stuck in, Albert. What are you doing in the garden at this time of night?
I was having a scout round for Dr. Watson.
He's still missing?
He's vanished into pure air. The Colonel's doing his nut. The lights were blazing in here. Haven't you got enough sense to draw the curtains if you want to go robbing him?
I tell you, I ain't robbing him. I just brought the coffee cups in. They're having it in here. And then I thought, well, if nobody was around, I thought I'd sneak a look at me report. He was writing it this afternoon.
What report?
Parole report.
Oh.
The one he sends in once a month. Telling him if I've washed my neck every day and not cost nobody over the skull.
Why, have you?
What?
Cost somebody.
No, but I might do in a minute.
Well, why are you so anxious to see that report, then?
The Colonel had me in here this afternoon about that fiver that's gone missing.
Oh, Lord, yes, the milkman's Christmas box. Here, you didn't nick it, did you?
I didn't even know it was there. The old clot's asking to be robbed if he leaves a fiver under a milk can at the end of the drive. Any old tramp coming up the lane could take it.
Now, listen, Ella. If you did nick it, he knows. He can tell with one look. Those big blue eyes come up and bore into you and click. He knows.
Well, the big blue eyes are lying this time. Still, he'd shot me though, wouldn't he, Albert?
If he thinks you nicked it, he will. To him, there won't be any option. You see, he gave his word.
Oh, no, he couldn't go back on his word to save me from 3 more years inside, could he? Why did he tell the parole board he'd take me on if he don't even trust me?
Look, I'll tell him I took the blooming fiver myself, if you like. Say I saw it blowing away down the lane and thought I'd put it in my pocket for safekeeping. Now, how's that?
Honestly, Albert?
Well, you know my reputation.
Oh, thanks, Albert.
I'd do anything for a damsel in distress. He can only give me a rollicking. Now then, get this desk tidied up. And chin up. It's Christmas tomorrow. Now, come on. Give us a quick kiss under the mistletoe.
What mistletoe?
Oh, blimey, use your imagination.
Good evening, Albert.
Evening, Doctor.
Congratulations on the meal. Really splendid.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Grace.
Come on, Gingold. In you go.
Thank you, sir.
Albert, why are you dressed up for going out?
I've just been having a scout round for Dr. Watson, sir.
Oh, good heavens, is he still missing? Yeah, you better have another look. See if he's got locked in one of the outbuildings.
Oh, very good, sir. I'll go out through the window, if that's okay, sir.
Yes, carry on.
I say, sir.
Yes, Gingold?
You sure got some books in this place.
Yes, it's a library.
Is this a family portrait, sir?
Our father, yes.
Mr. Justice Grace.
He looks pretty tough.
He was an old puppet, actually. Only he would go hanging people.
Excuse me, sir. Shall I bring the coffee in now?
Coffee you too?
Oh, thank you, sir.
I believe I'll stick to port.
As you wish. All right, Ella. Bring enough for 3. Mr. Monroe's just slipped out to look at his car.
Yes, sir.
One moment.
Yes, sir?
My desk.
Desk, sir?
Yeah, the blotter. Hasn't been changed. Covered in ink. Bring me a clean one.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes. Right away, sir.
Oh.
Thank you, sir.
That's the famous desk, Mr. Gingrich, where my brother composes his military memoirs. He's going to tell us all about his campaigns in Korea.
Really?
When I can get a clean blotter.
When does the first volume come out?
When it's ready. When it is ready, not before.
You know, you must be one of the few people who still writes in regular ink.
I like a steel nib, Mr. Gingold. One somehow gets closer to the page.
Like a bayonet tearing into the flesh. An illusion enhanced by the use of red ink.
The sisters in sparkling metaphorical form tonight.
Thank you, Victor. By the way, Mr. Gingrich here is named Mr. Gingrich.
I'm well aware of that.
Then don't keep calling him Mr. Gingold.
Gingold? Why should I call him that?
I don't know, dear, but you keep doing it.
I think you're mistaken.
Why don't you all just call me Fred?
Vanessa, don't you think you'd better go and see if Marina's feeling better?
Oh, yes, I had.
Oh, I shouldn't bother too much, Dr. Grace. She often takes a nap around this time.
Well, I'm sure she doesn't often leave the table in the middle of dinner to do it.
No, well, I guess the food was, just a little rich for her tonight. The truth is, we're not used to eating quite so, well, grandly.
What's that? Are you saying that Marina doesn't get enough to eat?
We've been living on tea and dry toast since we got to London.
Tea and dried toast? Tea and dry? Do you mean you're not making enough to feed her properly? I was under the impression you were both earning a decent living.
Well, no, sir. Nobody seems much interested in a magic act anymore. Our last 3 months in the States, well, we laid an egg in every town from Baton Rouge to Chicago. That swipe was like an answer to a prayer when you kindly offered to pay our air tickets to London. But when we got there, we had no engagement set, no agent, nothing. We couldn't even get auditions for a while.
Extraordinary. I wish the child had told me things had reached this pass.
I guess she's a bit too proud to plead poverty, sir.
Well, I noticed that you're not backward in that direction.
Now, excuse me, sir. I wasn't pleading poverty, sir. I was just explaining what...
Marina. We were worried about you.
Are you feeling better, dear?
I'm just fine, honestly. Just a little sinus headache.
I might have something in my bag to take that away.
Oh, thanks. I've got a little cure of my own. At least it works sometimes.
Oh, what's that?
Snuff. I think I'll be okay after I've taken a pinch. That is, if you've no objections.
Of course not.
Fire away. But first you must have a brandy. One for you, Frank.
Thank you, sir.
Don't forget me, Victor.
How could I?
Sorry if I spoilt the party.
Marina, you don't know what you missed. As a Christmas treat, they let me stay behind, drinking port and swapping dirty stories with the grown-ups. Flouting 500 years of tradition. What do you think my father would have made of that?
My father, the judge, would have passed summary sentence after putting on the black cap.
Well, I guess that's one tradition we can do without.
My father, do you mean? Or the black cap?
I think Fred means hanging.
I believe I detect in our American friend a fashionable derision for the old forms. Some of them did serve a useful purpose, you know.
Well, not the black cap, that's for sure.
Well, there you are, Marina. Now drink that down.
Victor.
Mr. Gingold?
Thank you, sir.
And one for you.
Thank you, Victor. Your good health, my dear. And here's to father's memory.
Yes, the old judge. Bless him.
The old judge. Cheerio and happy Christmas, everybody.
Yeah. Happy Christmas. You didn't join in the toast, Greengage. Come, we're not drinking to the hangman's noose, you know. My word, for a man who delights huge gatherings with his exploits, you seem to have very little sense of humour.
But I'm not a comic, Colonel.
No. You're an escapologist and illusionist, and a very fine one. My son always said you were the most amazing man in the world. And he wasn't too bad in that line himself. Was he, Marina?
No, Valentine was. Very good. Brilliant.
Brilliant, certainly. And brave. Brave as a lion.
God love us, it bites your face off out there.
Your car all right?
Well, I've given it some antifreeze and I could do with a drop myself.
Yeah, brandy do the trick.
You're a mind reader.
Oh, there we are.
Good-o. Bless you.
You're just in time, Monroe. We've somehow strayed onto the subject of hanging.
Have you really? Always a popular notion.
Tell me, Greengage, have you ever tried hanging?
In my act, do you mean?
Well, certainly not in real life. No, I mean standing on the trap in full view of the audience, manacled, noose round the neck, lever pulled, bingo, down you drop out of sight. Audience gasps. And then, hey presto, up you pop. Shinning up the rope, unmanacled, fresh as a daisy, and on to the next trick.
No, I never chanced my arm at that.
Your arm?
Why not? Too risky?
No, sir. Too sick.
Yes, I'm with you there. Not that he wouldn't drag 'em in. Public toppings always were a big draw.
Quite so. And has it ever struck any of you that abolishing hanging has led to a steep decline in one of our finer arts?
You mean the art of breaking necks?
Well, that too, Mr. Grimethorpe. But what I had in mind was the art of murder. Every murder had to be a masterpiece when one slip led to the scaffold. The noose, you know, nourished an entire school of quite splendid women poisoners. Artists, every one of them. Why, women as a class have virtually ceased to practice murder, yet it's the only art at which they've consistently excelled men. I tell you, an accomplished young lady in our grandfather's day was expected to do 4 things properly: music, drawing, needlework, and murder. Oh, well, may you laugh. But the trouble is that, as in life, so in literature. And the abolition of the rope brought about the total disappearance of the truly gripping whodunit. You see, if our fictional murderer doesn't risk his neck, the entire flavour is gone. So, you see, all our lives were made the poorer when we cast off the old hemp necklace.
Excuse me, Colonel, I think you're talking out of your hat.
Fred! Oh, dear.
You'd like to bring hanging back, so that more subtle killers could rise up to baffle you, to titillate you?
Oh, you must think I've got bats in my belfry. No, Mr. Gingham, I'm just lamenting the death of the detective story, that's all. The vintage crime puzzle. The really decent British murder. That's what I miss.
Victor boasts he has the finest collection of detective fiction in the country, you know.
I'll find Gingold a good one to curl up with in bed. Yes, an early Agatha Christie or a Clifford Kitchen. Or perhaps a Michael Battle.
Well, no, thanks. It's not exactly my scene.
You don't like detective stories?
I think they're absolute hokum.
Oh, dear.
From what I can gather, they're just cobbled together by frustrated old females with some kind of kink.
Oh?
Well, what's so funny?
Nothing at all. Do go on.
Well, some disfigurement that stops them looking at the world square on.
Excuse me, are you referring to some actual physical disfigurement, like the scar on my face?
Oh, gosh, no, look, I'm sorry. I just wasn't thinking.
No, that's all right. I'm used to it. But I was just interested to know whether you meant a physical scar or an emotional one.
Look, forget it, please. I guess I was just spitballing.
Mr. Gingold, are you familiar with the detective stories of Michael Battle?
Oh, Victor, do put a suck in it.
No, just a moment. It's my house. Michael Battle, Mr. Gingold.
All right, Victor, I'm off to bed.
Hey, what's going on?
I just wondered if you'd read anything by Michael Battle.
Okay, yeah. Well, no. I once started one of his books in hospital. There was nothing else to read, but I couldn't get past page 2.
Ah, now that is a great pity. Allow me to introduce you to Michael Battle.
What? How's that?
Permit me to introduce my sister Vanessa, alias Michael Battle, author of 76 Little Babies dressed in primrose overcoats.
Oh, no. Is this true?
I'm afraid it is.
Oh, my God. Look, if I said anything offensive, I
No,
apologize.
it's my brother who should apologize. He has a rather infantile sense of humour.
Do forgive me, Mr. Gingold. An old soldier can never resist laying an ambush.
Coffee, sir.
Ah, thank you, Ella.
I can't believe it.
What?
Vanessa, Michael Battle. It's incredible. Did you know Mr. Monroe?
As a matter of fact, I did. I'm her greatest fan.
No, you're not. I am. Vanessa, I'm just overwhelmed.
Not half as much as me. Do you mind if we change the subject?
Where on earth do the stories come from? I've always wanted to ask.
They're just a sublimation of my violent tendencies, I think Fred would say.
No.
No, I just think of a situation, a set of characters, think of who it would be amusing to bump off, and then do it.
Yes, but where do you find your characters?
Well, they're all round us. I mean, for example, look at us. We have all the ingredients of a whodunit here, don't we? One of Victor's vintage crime puzzles. And it's just as Fred says. The cast comes straight out of the property basket. The peppery colonel, the vinegary spinster sister.
The salty policeman.
Well, yes, the complete cruet of suspects. And all laid out on a starched tablecloth of snow. And who else have we here? Oh, yes, the mysterious snuff-taking beauty, the touchy young American escapologist and knife-thrower.
Hey, am I touchy?
Oh, yes. The former burglar-turned-Batman-turned-butler.
Coffee, Dr. Grace.
Oh, thank you, Ellen.
Oh, blimey, my body's sticking. Oh, sorry, Doctor, I thought you had hold of it.
No damage, Ella. It's all gone in the saucer.
Here. Oh, I'll get you another.
See, we even have the comic maid who says, blimey, my body's talking at every little upset. You don't mind being called the comic maid, do you, Ella? It's only a little game we're playing.
It's not my place, Doctor, to mind anything. Your coffee, Doctor.
Oh, dear. Thank you, Ella.
Will that be all, sir?
Yes, Ella, you can run along.
Oh, dear. It's not my place, Doctor, to mind anything. Now, you see what I mean about characters from stock. The maid, of course, has been known to be the murderer.
Does anybody mind if I take my snuff now?
We'll all watch with great interest.
Don't make me laugh or you'll have me spilling it. Now, open the lid.
What a pretty box.
Yes, gold.
Of course, Marina could be our murderer.
Oh, drat.
Whoops-a-daisy.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's got a loose hinge. Oh, Victor, I'm afraid it's made a mess of your carpet.
It's only a spot, child. That'll soon brush up, as long as you've got some left.
Oh, yes, plenty. Now... There. Would anybody else like to try some?
Well, I'll take a pinch before I go to bed, if I may. Might stop me snoring.
That's it, snuff. You're the victim, Victor. You die by the ingestion of snuff containing a poison which leaves no trace. What do you think of that?
It's not to be sneezed at. It could almost qualify as Monroe's perfect crime, eh, Lionel? Monroe, you know, has the ambition of wanting to commit the perfect murder. The natural reaction against being a policeman all one's life, poor chap.
How do you know I haven't done it already? 3 or 4 times. I'm such a blinding expert that I never leave a clue. My victims appear to have died from chicken pox, senile decay. At any rate, something completely orthodox.
No.
America speaks.
No, as I figure it, if you really wanted to commit the perfect murder, that wouldn't satisfy you. A murder that nobody even suspects is a murder.
Of course. Anyone cracked enough to attempt the perfect murder, purely for his own sake, would make sure it was a very obvious murder. Just so that he could have a good gloat as the police stumbled about looking for it.
Oh, sure he would. What's so funny?
I was just reminded of a curious newspaper headline I once saw in Tibet. Woman found strangled in monastery. Police suspect foul play.
That's good. Sir, have you really been in Tibet, sir?
Once or twice.
Really? Well, what took you there?
I went to pick the brains of their holy men. I've always been curious about the nuts and bolts of magic, no matter what form it takes. Levitation, telekinesis, Indian rope trick, walking on hot coals, or even your sort of magic, spiriting yourself out of padlocked cabinets and so forth. They're all kindred trades, are they not? All victories of mind over brute flesh.
Well, not giving any secrets away, a lot of it is just plain mechanical know-how.
Granted. That's why I said nuts and bolts. But what separates the great magician from the gifted mechanic is exceptional mental control.
Oh, sure, that comes into it.
And some men have developed it so finely that they can overcome their physical limitations almost absolutely. That's why I wandered about the East, trying to pick up their secrets. I had my most interesting experience in Jutabad in Nepal. The tribesmen there were in the habit of passing red-hot skewers through their own bodies. I had the dickens of a job trying to get Albert to do the same.
Albert? Oh, now that's the tallest story of all.
Oh, yes, the fellow was most obstinate. Look here, I said, I've done it. You don't want to let the side down, do you, in front of this pack of ragamuffins?
You did it?
You bet.
But didn't it hurt?
Oh, no. I picked up a few wrinkles from the head chap, you see. Studied the different practices and postures they went in for. Breath control, meditation, what have you. And at the end of the day, I was able to censor out every distraction.
You mean a red-hot skewer in your flesh? You could censor that?
My dear Gingold, with discipline and practice, anyone could. Even Albert did.
Albert did?
Certainly. Pleased as punch with himself once he'd taken the plunge. Went strutting up and down like a human pincushion. Somewhat singed one, of course. But that's all ancient history. Now, would anyone like to join me at midnight mass tonight?
Have you seen the roads, Victor?
Look, there's ice and snow everywhere.
Yeah, I nearly took a toss coming in from target practice.
Ah, well, did you say target practice?
Mm-hmm. I practice throwing my knives for an hour every day. Albert said it'd be okay if I used your hayloft, your gymnasium or whatever.
Ah, yes, the gym.
That's quite a place. Who uses it?
Oh, it's just an ancient stables I fitted up for boxing and physical training. I like to do a bit of sparring with Albert. Keeps us both on our toes. And I believe little Ella goes in for lifting the dumbbells up there. Extraordinary, what? Of course, I'm on the injured list at the moment, this stupid gout. So I have to content myself with battles of wit. Ah, yes, by the by, I've something rather splendid in that line for you tonight. Jolly good Christmas game.
Oh, no. Can I be excused? I loathe games.
Wait till you hear the prize. £1,000.
Victor, is this one of your merry pranks?
Excuse me, sir. Your clean blotter, sir.
Ah, yes, just put it down over there. Yes, and then you can stay and listen.
Yes, sir.
Because Ella can play this game too. Albert can. You all can. And the winner collects £1,000. Yes, £1,000 if he succeeds in entering this room undetected. Better than a motto from a Christmas cracker, what? You see, in selecting a decent party game, the good host must consider the various talents of his guests assembled, and endeavour to tailor the prank accordingly. So I gave this much thought, and came to the conclusion that most of my guests this weekend had in common a certain expertise.
Oh, yes, and that is?
Why, breaking and entering.
Breaking and entering?
Well, in a manner of speaking. I mean, Gingold, as we all know, is the modern Houdini. And Marina, like all the best magician's assistants, can vanish and reappear elsewhere, apparently at will. Now, Ella is a practised prison breaker, and so, once upon a time, was Albert. As for our friend, the Chief Constable, I don't know if you're aware, but he had the habit in wartime not of breaking out of German prisons, but of breaking into them and getting others out. And now he's regarded as our most eminent authority on criminal methods of breaking and entering.
And you'll pay £1,000 if they can enter this room? You must be dotty.
Not completely.
I take it there's a concealed hazard.
Oh, not concealed, because I'm about to reveal it. Now, you see the little glass-fronted box I've set into the wall, and inside it a button?
Well, some kind of fire alarm, isn't it?
Not exactly. Let me show you. If I remove the glass safety shield, thus, and then press the button, presto! The music begins to play, and the button lights up as a red warning signal.
But a warning of what?
A guillotine.
A guillotine?
Would you like to see? Press that button, will you, Monroe? Then it'll be safe to open the door.
Very well.
All clear now. You can open the door, Gingold. Or perhaps you'd rather I did.
Okay. What can I lose? Only my head, I guess. Okay. Well, I guess I keep my head.
Now, take a look at the top of the door frame.
Well, well.
What is it?
There's a groove up here about a couple of inches wide running all the way along.
Feel inside with your fingers. Careful, it's awfully sharp.
Oh, my God, there's a blade up here. Say, do you mean this thing can drop?
Naturally. It's a guillotine.
Oh, charming toys you play with. What's holding it up?
Electromagnets.
And you mean they can be switched on and off by that little button on the wall?
It fills the doorway with a curtain of electronic beams. If they're broken by someone trying to enter or to leave, the magnets are cut and the blade drops. Chop.
Oh, you gotta be joking. Say, this is one big bluff.
Possibly. Perhaps the blade can drop. Perhaps I'm pulling your legs. Now, isn't that the essence of a first-class game, the uncertainty? At any rate, anyone wishing to win the big prize has been warned about the door, and I think we'll have it closed. Now, then, of course, there's the window. The same mechanism operates the most appalling alarm bell if the window is so much as touched. I see you're looking at the fireplace, Monroe. If you're thinking of entering down the chimney, I must tell you the fire will be made up with ash logs last thing at night. And I think we'll put one on now. There we are. And I'm afraid there are no secret passageways connecting with this room, no priest holes hidden behind the panelling, or trapdoors under the carpet.
Oh, first class, Victor.
I'm glad it tickles you so much, Monroe.
They've swallowed it, Victor. Every one of them.
But not you.
Just watch this. Press the button, will you, Gingrich? I'm going to open the door.
Oh, sure.
All right, here we go. Hand on the knob. Now, what are the lines? It's a far, far better thing...
Lionel, don't touch that door.
Oh, too late. I'm touching it and I'm going to open it. Just watch.
Press the button, please. Someone at the window. I imagine that's Albert trying to enter at the window. You know, Monroe, if I were you, I should be thanking him dearly. All right, Albert. In you come.
Sir? Sir, I'm afraid I've got some bad news.
Bad news? What's that? On your hands?
It's blood, sir. It's Dr. Watson.
Dr. Watson? Hurt?
Dead, sir. Somebody's killed him.
God, what? Knocked down?
No, sir. Somebody used a knife on him.
What a poor dear chap. Oh, upon my word. The dear sweet fellow. I'm sorry. I really can't face all this at my age.
No, darling. Try and pull yourself together.
That poor, foolish creature. He was all I had left in the world, you see.
Now, do try to get it in perspective, Victor. Dr. Watson was only a dog.
Only a dog? What's that you say? He was the only friend I could count on to be faithful.
Oh, come now, I've been faithful, sir. You can always count on Albert.
Oh, don't be ridiculous. Only a dog. Is that what you said at breakfast, Vanessa? I told you I was setting aside a few £1,000 in my will so that he could be cared for if he survived me, and you said it's ridiculous.
Oh, no, Victor.
Albert, how was he killed?
Wouldn't you like to leave the details till later, sir?
What did they do to him?
They cut his throat, sir.
Cut his throat?
It must have been over quick, sir. No pain.
How do you know that?
They cut clean through his windpipe, sir.
Clean through? Oh, yes, I see. A scalpel. Of course. Tell me, Vanessa, did you bring your bag of tricks with you? Equipment? Tools of the trade?
My surgical instruments.
Yes.
Well, they're in the car, but surely
I thought as much. Yes, I thought as much.
Are you suggesting that I had something to do with this?
Only a dog. Heard it from your own lips this very morning.
Now, Victor, you're talking nonsense.
Am I really? What's the matter with you, Albert? You done something to your arm?
I think I've bust my wrist, sir.
What? When you were killing him? Did he put up a fight when you were killing him?
No, sir. I fell over his body. I was going through the shrubbery and I just stumbled over him. I felt my wrist go when I hit the ground.
Felt your wrist go? You always were a malingerer.
Well, let me have a look, Albert. Yeah. Here, now, can you slip your coat on?
Man's a confirmed malingerer. Disgrace to his regiment.
How gently does it. There.
Where did you find my dog?
In the shrubbery, sir, just opposite the gymnasium. Ooh.
Oh, sorry, Albert. Now, don't try to move that arm. It'll have to go in a sling.
Right.
I'll go and find something to fix you up.
Found near the gymnasium? Perhaps you have something to tell me, Gingold, eh?
I think you're in shock, Colonel. You've lost your cool.
Cool? What language is this?
I think you could use a good night's sleep, sir. With respect. I guess we all could.
Could I clear the coffee things, sir?
Coffee things? There!
Oh,
Damn
sir!
They're cleared.
Oh.
We have had a bereavement, Ella. This is a house in mourning.
Blimey, Christmas too. I knew something coming along and spoil it.
What was that?
This scarf should do the trick, Albert. Oh, someone dropped the tray.
No. Wait, Vanessa.
I beg your pardon?
The sling can wait.
Oh, don't behave like a spoilt child.
I'm going to put you all out of here in a minute.
What?
Yes, you can attend to that malodorous malingerer out of my sight.
Excuse me, I think I'll say good night.
No, Marina, stay. Yes, I want all of you to stay. I will sit at my desk and talk to you like a headmaster. You know, I'm not a man noted for the tenderness of my feelings. I'm an army man. For a long time, I've been fed up with our species. A wise man once said, "Out of the crooked timber of humanity, no straight thing ever was made." A man looks for loyalty. Well, you'll never find it among men. That much I learned. Only among animals. You see, animals have no possessions. Yeah, I think that might be the answer. Now then, look at this. My will. Disposal of my possessions. I'm having my solicitor over tomorrow. I'm going to change it.
It's Christmas Day, dear.
He won't mind calling in for a Christmas noggin and a fee on top of it. Now, before I tear this up, you might like to hear the details. Yeah. Now, to summarise. To my friend Lionel Monroe, the R.V. Grace collection of periodicals and books on murder fiction. To my sister Vanessa, I bequeath this house in which she grew up, and £10,000 a year. To my cook Batman, Albert Congleton, £10,000 for faithful service. To my bloodhound dog, Dr. Irrelevant now. To any other employee in my service at the time of my death, that will be Ella, 5,000 by way of notice. The rest of my estate, valued at something like 190,000, the last time I inquired, to my daughter-in-law, Marina Grace. And now, there.
What?
In pieces.
Sir, permission to speak, sir?
One sentence.
Won't I be getting my cut, sir?
Not a penny. Neither will any of you. It will go to less treacherous animals.
Oh, sir, even 10,000 is not a lot at the end of the day. It's hardly what I'd get as redundancy money, sir.
I've nothing to add. Now, if you'll kindly leave me, I'll draft my new will.
I only want my fair cut, sir.
Go. All of you.
As if anybody wanted to stay.
Oh, come on, Ella. Bring the tray and then off to bed.
Righto, Doctor.
Are you sure I can't get you a sleeping tablet, Victor? Do try to be in better form tomorrow, darling. It is Christmas Day. Good night, dear. Good night, all of you.
Well, good night, old boy. Come on, Gingrich.
Just hold on one moment. Colonel Grace, could I ask just one question, sir? Is the bet still on?
Please get out of my sight.
Sir, is there anything I could get you? A nice cup of cocoa?
No.
Whatever you say, sir. There is just one thing, sir.
Well?
Does all this mean we won't be wearing funny hats tomorrow?
Take this fellow away, please, Monroe. He is giving me a headache. And no more disturbances.
Come along, Albert.
But we've always had paper hats, sir.
Albert, blow. Good night, sir.
Alone, at last. No more disturbances. Yes. We'll soon make sure of that. Will we be wearing funny hats? Funny hats? Why not? The clowns, prancing and cavorting in their funny hats.
Dr. Grace? Wake up, Doctor.
Oh, what time is it?
Just gone 8. Of a Christmas morning.
What's the weather doing?
Snowing like mad.
Oh.
Doctor, Albert sent me in to say the Colonel ain't slept in his bed.
What, my dear?
Albert thinks he might be...
Well?
Well, in the library.
Library?
The door's locked. We can't get no answer.
Did you take a look in through the French window?
Well, I tried, sir, but the curtains are drawn.
Victor! Victor, are you in there, old boy?
I've been trying that since 7 o'clock, sir.
And the French window's locked?
Yes, sir.
Then we'll have to break it open.
Well, what are we waiting for? I could open that window with one finger.
Hello, good morning.
Oh, morning.
Morning.
Well, a Merry Christmas.
Many of them, Dr. Grace.
No sign of my brother?
It looks as though he's still in there.
You mean he's been in there all night?
Well, listen, the music's still playing.
Music? Oh, yes.
Could have had some kind of turn. We were just about to go in through the French window.
I'm on my way.
That's all right, Gingrich, I'll do it.
Look, it's my profession. You don't want it damaged.
It's my profession, too. Nobody in there till I've taken a gander, please.
Okay, I'll come with you.
No, I'd much rather you all stayed here. Don't jump if you hear the alarm. It'll just mean I've got in.
Excuse me, Dr. Grace. Shall I start getting breakfast?
Oh, just leave it for a few minutes, Ella. Is Mrs. Grace up yet?
No, Doctor. I went in to call her, but she was sleeping so deep.
What do you mean, sleeping deep?
I couldn't rouse her. I think she must have been tired out, sir.
Yes, she had a very trying night, the poor lamb. How's your arm this morning, Albert?
Well, I couldn't manage a proper wash, Doctor. It's stiffened right up. It's a good job it wasn't my right arm, or I would be in a mess.
Yes, well, I'm afraid you're stuck with that sling for a while. Oh, there. Mr. Monroe's inside. He's switched it off.
And he switched the guillotine off, thank the Lord.
Guillotine? I'd forgotten about that.
Come on, Monroe. Open up!
Lionel, is everything all right? Is Victor in there, Lionel?
Geez, plodding British policeman.
Lionel! Open this door. Now come on at once.
I'll count 10 and then I'm going round there.
Well, Lionel?
Vanessa.
Well, is he in there?
Please go to the drawing room. I'll be with you shortly.
What? I'm coming in there.
Vanessa, I must ask
Can't you just tell us if he's in there, sir?
Lionel, he's dead, isn't he?
Vanessa.
Let me past.
As you wish.
The others were drawn after me into the room. My brother lay face down at his desk. His right hand rested on the white blotter,
A steel-nibbed pen stuck out from his stiffened fingers. A knife, planted to its hilt in his back, had a white bone haft. The winter light fell upon several dark splashes on the deep blue carpet where last night's coffee had been upset. Towards the centre of the room was a small gingery stain left by Marina's spilt snuff. In the fireplace a log smouldered away, reduced almost to ash. On the top of the log there rested a burnt sheet of paper, burnt to grey ash, but recognisably a sheet of paper.
Say, listen, could I own up to something right here and now?
Well?
That's my knife in his back. One of my throwing knives. Now listen, is somebody here trying to put me on the spot?
Now why on earth should they try to do that?
Hadn't somebody better ring for the police?
Not for the moment.
Oh, but Lionel...
Not yet. A gang of policemen barging about might obscure things, not make them clearer. The atmosphere of a murder is rather quick to evaporate once the wind blows in.
But we're obstructing the
course of justice. I'll take the can for that. Have you any idea how long he's been dead? I'm sorry, I must ask.
I should say about 6 hours.
And it's now 8:15. That would make it 2 a.m. or thereabouts.
Possibly longer. The room's quite warm.
And then could we say 1 o'clock at the earliest?
I think so. There's one thing I am sure of.
Yes?
He was killed by a left-handed man.
Wait, now why left-handed? How can you possibly know that?
It's quite clear, Fred.
Huh?
You see the angle at which the knife enters the body?
Yeah.
It was driven upwards into the left side of the back with a distinct bias to the right. Do you see?
Right.
Where a right-handed blow would have a bias to the left.
Death would have been instantaneous.
If the knife went into the heart, yes. But I can't be sure of that for the moment. It may have narrowly missed the heart or gone in at the very edge.
In which case?
He might have remained conscious for, a couple of minutes at the most.
Now, just hold it there.
Yes, Fred?
A man. You said a left-handed man.
Mm.
Why not a woman?
Well, she'd have to be jolly powerful. The blade's gone in right up to the hilt. Yes, and the more I think about it, it would have taken exceptional strength even from a man. It's an upward thrust, you see. Difficult to get much force behind one of those unless you're as strong as a bull.
Excuse me, Doctor.
Yes, Albert?
Well, no offence intended to Mr. Gingrich, but couldn't somebody have thrown the knife? You can tell me to shut up, but it is a throwing knife.
No, Albert, not unless my brother was standing on a hill or perhaps a staircase and a knife thrower at some point below him. The knife entered his back upwards, you see, Albert.
Yes, of course, Doctor. Take the notice of me. I'm all over the place.
Oh, for God's sake, Albert. Can't you see that much? He was stabbed as he sat on his stool. Somebody crept up behind him and let him have it.
Thank you, Ella. We must all try to remain calm.
Hello, everybody. Happy Christmas. Oh, Victor!
No, Marina. Marina. My God, she's passed out. Here, Monroe, come on. Help me get her onto the sofa. Couldn't you have slapped her face or something? You're supposed to be a doctor.
Well, that's a good way to break a person's nose, nothing else. Besides, Mr. Gingrich, I don't believe in hitting a pregnant woman.
Pregnant? You know? Well, she told you?
There was no need.
Fred.
Yeah, okay, baby. Just lie back. Everything's going to be fine.
Fred, what made you do it? What made you do it?
Now, look, don't fret yourself, sugar. I didn't do a thing.
It's your knife. That's your knife.
Yeah.
Fred.
Marina, now stop this. Albert.
Yes, Doctor.
We'll all feel a lot better with some breakfast inside us.
Breakfast now, Doctor?
So if you'll pop along and make it, you too, Ella. He can't manage by himself with that arm.
Oh, very good, Doctor. Come on, Ella.
Fred.
Yeah?
But why would anybody use your knife? How could they get hold of it?
Where did you keep it?
Up in my room. There's a whole case of them. Set of 13. The case was in the dresser.
And do you keep the case locked?
Why should I? No.
And your room was unlocked?
Well, it's not an hotel.
So anyone could have walked in and taken one?
Sure, they could have taken a lot.
I sincerely hope not. Slip up and see if the case is still there, will you?
I sure as hell will.
And Fred.
Yeah?
Just one question.
Okay.
Are you right-handed or left-handed?
Oh, so that's a pitch.
Well, of course you're not obliged to answer.
Right-handed or left-handed, he's neither. What's that got to do with it?
He's neither.
He's both. He's ambidextrous.
Ah, I see.
Oh, you think you do.
And you, Marina. Which hand do you use?
Now, that's enough grilling for this morning, Monroe.
I'm right-handed. Why?
I don't understand any of
They
this.
reckon the old boy was killed by a left-hander is all.
They what? Oh.
Yeah, I guess I'm in a one-way lobster pot, even if it turns out he was killed by a right-hander. Okay, now you listen, Monroe. I'm going up now, and I want no more pressure on Marina. No more questions. You got that?
Yes.
Good.
You think he did it, don't you? Well, you're wrong. Do you want to know why? Because I...
Excuse me, breakfast in 5 minutes, Doctor.
Oh, good.
Oh, Albert.
Yes, sir.
It doesn't happen to be your best arm that you've injured, does it?
Pardon, sir?
You're right-handed?
Oh, yes, sir. Thank God I didn't bust that one, eh? Otherwise it'd have been one of Ella's burnt offerings for breakfast.
And Ella, which hand does she use?
Right hand, sir, I think. No, half a mo, left hand. No. Oh, well, blow me, that's queer. I don't know, sir.
Ask her to step in for a minute, would you?
Very good, sir.
And to spare you the embarrassment of asking, Lionel, I'm right-handed.
Yes, Vanessa, I've known that for a long time.
Just as I've known for a long time that you're left-handed.
I'm flattered that you'd have taken the trouble to notice.
No trouble at all, my dear.
Ella to see you, sir. And I've taken the liberty to bring this sheet, Doctor, to cover up the remains.
Oh, yeah, but thank you, Albert.
Now, Ella,
Yes, sir?
just a little question I've had to put to everybody. Are you right-handed or left-handed?
Why?
Just answer the question.
You can't make me. Anyway, I'm a right-hander. I am, always have been.
Thank you. That's all.
Sir,
Hmm?
that was a fib, sir.
Oh, dear.
I'm left-handed, sir.
Well, bear up, child, so am I. The best people are, you know.
Anyway, sir, couldn't have been Ella, because she got up in the night...
Well, do go on.
Oh, sorry, it's nothing, sir.
Oh, come on.
Well, sir, it's just that... You see, sir, our rooms are on the same landing. Now, if Ella had been knocking about, sir, in the middle of the night, I'd have heard something.
When you were fast asleep?
Well, yes, sir.
Blasted, Albert, let's have the truth.
I'm telling the truth, sir, so help me.
Oh, it's no good, Albert. It'll all have to come out in the end, so you might as well own up now.
You hold your tongue.
Oh, don't be a great ninny. Albert was in bed with me. Well, there's no law against it, is there?
Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Grace. We was only sharing a room.
Oh, blooming idiot.
Well, I'd better put this sheet over the remains now, Doctor. May I,
Yes.
if Ella could give me a hand?
Yes, of course.
Right, Ella,
All right, Albert.
we'll cover him gently.
Well, I think it's time we called the police, isn't it, Lionel?
Listen, Ollie, 2 more knives are missing.
Fred!
Hello, darling. You feeling better now?
2 more knives missing?
Yeah, there should be 13 in that case. There are only 10.
Are you sure?
I tell you, there are only 10 in my knife case. That one on the Colonel's back makes 11. We're a number 12 and number 13.
Why should anybody want 2 more knives?
I hate to imagine.
Sir? Mr. Munro?
Yes, Ella.
Have you seen this chalk mark, sir, on the Colonel's back?
Chalk mark?
Only very faint. But it's definitely chalk, sir.
Where?
There, sir. On his jacket, sir. Just where the knife's gone in.
Yes.
Just as if somebody had chalked a little cross on his back.
You're right. And the knife enters where both lines meet.
A sort of target, sir. As if somebody had marked out that spot to it and then thrown it...
Yeah, look.
I'm sorry, Mr. Gingrich. I didn't mean anything. Shall we cover him up now, sir?
A chalk cross? Yes, cover him, please do.
Gently. Soon have you coming up nice and warm, sir.
Albert, stop blubbering.
And a bit more sheet over this side. We don't want it to slip him off him. Half a mo. You take a look at that.
Eh?
See this? On his blotter.
Oh.
Sir, Mr. Monroe.
Yes.
There's some writing on the Colonel's blotter, sir. Red ink. Just like a couple of words or something.
Where?
Well, I must have just moved his arm a bit. There, sir, see? His arm must have been hiding it.
Can you make out what it says?
Well, it's just some meaningless fuzzy blot.
Sir, could you hold it up to the mirror?
My dear young woman, you've been reading too many penny dreadfuls. Better leave it there for the forensic chaps.
I am a forensic chap, and I rather agree with Ella. Can you slide the blotter out?
Yeah, I think so, Doctor.
Do.
Beg pardon, Colonel. If I could just move your wrist a bit, Colonel. Gently, does it? Out it comes, Colonel.
He could have written down the name of the one who done it. Yeah, that was a clean blind last night.
Give it to me, Albert. Thank you.
Can you make out what it says, Doctor?
Please, please. Now, if you wouldn't all crowd on top of me, I might be able to.
Doctor, I think it says lion and moon.
Lion? Moon? Half a mo. That's not lion, it's... No. Never.
But it is. Lionel Munro.
Oh?
Ludicrous. Why, this is perfectly ludicrous.
Let's just assume that it isn't, shall we?
No, let's not. Assumption is the lazy mind's excuse for avoiding real work. Amateur night is over, Fred. It's time I took full charge.
You must be joking, of course.
You want us to put the monkey in charge of the banana stand?
Monkey?
You made pretty sure nobody else got a look at this room this morning till you'd given it a mighty thorough going over.
Oh, you mean I was clearing my tracks and wiping my fingerprints and what have you?
Exactly, and disposing of the sheet of paper that was blotted on this pad.
Oh, you mean I came in here and pocketed it, eh?
No, you didn't pocket it, Lionel.
Oh, I say. Sudden outbreak of sanity.
You put it on the fire. It's still there.
If you're referring to that sheet of charred paper...
Which you've been eyeing very nervously ever since we came in here.
Oh, dear. Dear, dear, dear. Well, can't you see that Victor himself put it on the fire last night?
No, it was put on the fire this morning.
My dear lady, forensic science, though splendidly advanced, has so far discovered no technique for determining the time of death of a sheet of paper.
But it has, Lionel. You said just now, when I suggested we call in the police, that the atmosphere of a murder was quick to evaporate once the wind blew in.
So I did. What of it?
Albert, would you open the window?
Well, it's a bit parky, miss, and we'll have all the snow blowing in here.
Well, never mind. Open the window.
Oh, very good, Doctor.
Thank you. Now, what's that sheet of paper?
Blimey, my body's stocking. Just look at that.
It's just blowing to fragments.
Crumbling into little bits.
You see, Lionel, how it disintegrates once the wind blows in.
That's quite clever.
You can close the window, Albert.
Right.
So, if the paper was put on the fire last night and got all charred up like that, it would have stayed in one piece until...
Until Mr. Munro opened the window this morning and then blown to pieces.
Ergo, it was put there after Munro came in this morning.
Please, Vanessa, I shouldn't do that. I said don't use the phone. I wouldn't like to be forced to harm you.
Doctor, he's got a gun.
Now, Vanessa, hang up. I'd be reluctant to use this. Thank you. That was intelligent.
Nothing to do with intelligence, Lionel. I was about to hang up anyway. The telephone isn't working, you see. It appears to have been disconnected.
Oh, you.
Marina, do come in.
Where are they all? What have you done with them?
Oh, dear, you don't think I've done away with the entire household? Oh, do come and sit by the fire. Fred won't be long. That's better. Tea time soon. I dare say you're hungry. Missed your lunch, or should I say Christmas dinner?
Where's Fred?
He popped out to look for missing knives. Look, to set your mind at rest, I'll tell you where all of them are. Dr. Grace is upstairs examining the body. We took him to his own room. Albert and Ella are getting tea, I imagine. And that's everybody.
Fred's looking for knives. Where?
He thinks he might have left a couple in the gym yesterday after his target practice. You're shaking your head.
Fred never leaves a thing lying around.
No, that's what I thought. Are you feeling better after your rest?
Rest?
Awfully sorry I gave you a shock. Producing a gun.
I passed out, didn't I? Yes. First thing I knew, I was in bed. Yes, Vanessa was trying to make me drink something, a sedative.
So you've had a refreshing sleep?
No. When she left, I emptied it down the wash basin.
Oh, dear. You don't trust Vanessa?
I don't trust anybody in this house.
Trust me, please.
Trust you? After turning your gun on us?
Not my gun. The Colonel's gun. Found it in his desk. There was no option. I couldn't have a set of country bobbies crashing about. They'd raise a very poor team on Christmas Day, you know. Do you know what I'm reading?
No.
I've been going through Victor's desk. Came across these manuscripts. I took them for his memoirs, but apparently there are no memoirs. Do you know what he's been writing all these years? Detective stories.
Victor?
Oh, yes. Only the poor chap doesn't seem to have had very much luck with them. Letters of regret from publishers, rejection slips. He was obviously no Michael Battle. Are you a fan, by the way?
Of detective stories? I used to be. Valentine was keen on them. We used to have bets on who could spot the villain first.
Valentine didn't try his hand at writing them. Seems to have been a family failing.
No, he was interested in the theory, but he never wrote one as far as I know.
The theory?
Yes, the theory of the first suspect and that kind of thing.
Theory of the first suspect?
Yes, that's where the writer throws all the suspicion on one character early in the book. The reader tosses it out as a false trail, but the first suspect has done it all the same.
Oh dear, in this case I suppose that would be me. No, my dear, you might just as well say the butler did it.
Excuse me?
Well, and here he is. Come on in, Albert. We're just talking about you.
Oh, I thought my ears were burning, sir.
I was just saying that the butler did it.
Oh, go on, sir. You get worse for keeping. Still, it's nothing to joke about, is it, sir?
And what makes you think I'm joking?
No, sir. Very good, sir.
Did you want something?
Oh, yes, sir, it's Ella. She's going to do a bunk if we're not careful. She's just gone up to get her things on and pack her bag.
All right, skip it, Albert. I can speak up for myself.
What's all this, Ella?
I'm clearing out of here, that's all.
Have you seen the weather?
That's what I said, sir. It's a night to make a black dog walk in white.
So what? I'd rather die of frostbite than a knife in the back. Someone else is going to get done in here before the night's much older. And it ain't going to be me. I'm going straight to the police and put all my cards on the table. And I'll tell the absolute truth this time, so help me.
Haven't you told us the truth? Have you been hiding something?
I'm saying nothing more in this house. There's not one of you I feel safe with. And I ain't stopping here with faces staring in at the windows.
Faces at the windows? What do you mean?
There was someone at the window goggling in at me. And don't say I made it up.
When was this?
Not 5 minutes ago, in the kitchen. I was cutting the bread with me back to the window and suddenly I felt these eyes on me back. Oh, I tell you, it made my skin crawl. And then I turned round and there weren't nobody there. Just a hole in the snow where somebody had brushed it off the pane and looked in.
Well, it was probably our friend Gingrich. He's knocking about outside.
Oh, thanks a million. Is that supposed to make me feel better? Not to worry, dear. It's only the mad knife thrower on the prowl.
Very well, go. But if you think there's a maniac at large, I think you'll soon be sorry you set off.
Oh, what can I do? I ain't going back to that kitchen. How do I know she's not waiting to jump out on me?
She?
With that face. She could have you chopped up into meat cutlets before you knew where you were. Oh, it's all very well for you to smile, sitting there in comfort. But anybody would feel jittery in that kitchen stuck right away at the end of the corridor. If you feel like that, you can stay here with us. In here? Honestly, you wouldn't mind? I'd be glad of the company. So why don't you just come and sit down by the fire? Oh, thank you, Mrs. Grace.
Ooh, it's icy up there as the morgue. I say, Albert, isn't it about tea time?
I'm just off to see to it, Doctor.
Ah, how's the arm?
Well, it's not too hot, but I'm learning to cope with the other.
Look, why don't Ella and I get the tea? Come on, Ella. Albert can sit here and have a cigar.
No, Doctor.
No?
Ella's coming here for company. She's scared to death.
I ain't going back to that kitchen.
Well, don't be silly. I'll be with you.
Well, that's the trouble.
Better let Albert do it, Vanessa.
Oh, yeah, well, I see. Well, carry on, Albert.
Oh, very good, Doctor. Oh, Doctor, as it's Christmas tea...
Yeah?
Will you be wanting to wear funny hats?
No, thank you, Albert.
Oh. Righto, miss.
Now, Ella, this information you've been holding back.
Nothing to say, sir.
Oh, is Ella keeping something from us?
I'll tell all I know to the police. Nobody in this house.
Is it something about your master? About his health?
No.
Victor's health? Why, what have you discovered?
I've discovered that he was fooling himself badly if he thought he had gout. Or someone was fooling him.
What have you found?
There's no sign of gout. The leg muscles were wasting away. It looks like muscular dystrophy.
Really?
He'd have been in a wheelchair soon.
Ah.
Marina, did you come down to see him last night after we'd all gone to bed?
Victor, no.
You didn't come back and give him a pinch of snuff?
Why, no.
Well, he told you he'd take some before he went to bed.
He threw us all out. Do you think I'd come back and offer him snuff when he was in that mood?
You see, Marina, I found snuff on his jacket. A tiny peppering of snuff on his lapel.
Did you give him snuff at any time? earlier in the evening?
Oh, no!
Or was he in the habit of taking snuff? Ella, did he keep snuff in the house?
I never seen none.
You didn't leave your snuff box behind last night?
No.
And come back for it later?
No.
Marina, could you tell us the truth about Valentine's death?
The truth? What do you mean?
Well, he died in America. My brother went out to discover what happened, attend the funeral. But when he came back, he refused to talk about it. We don't know a thing, just that it was an accident.
Why are you bringing this up now?
You inherit Valentine's money.
You mean I got Valentine out of the way and then I got Victor out of the way? Oh, you're crazy.
Well, the fact remains that both of them have been got out of the way.
And as a result, you're a very rich woman.
Well, how did Valentine die?
A knife.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
A knife in his heart. Yes.
How did it get there?
It was thrown. It was thrown by Fred. Yes. And it was an accident. It was an accident.
Marina, I know this is an ordeal, but try to answer calmly. How did you meet Fred Gingrich?
I went out there as an actress. The show folded almost at once. Then I auditioned for Fred. He wanted an assistant for his act. I got the job.
Didn't the partnership become closer than that?
Did we fall in love? We thought so. But then Valentine came along. He was at a loose end, looking for excitement as usual. He persuaded Fred to take him into the act.
And you fell for him?
Yes.
What did Fred think?
He took it on the chin. I think Fred was rather dazzled by him, too. He was such a genuinely charming man, and such a daredevil. It was his idea for Fred to throw a knife at his heart.
As part of the act?
Yes. Valentine made a heart out of a chunk of cork. He held it against his body, covering his heart. It was the climax of Fred's throwing act, hitting that cork heart. But Fred hated the idea, so he had a trick knife made, one with a harmless blade that retracted into the handle on impact.
So what went wrong?
The night it happened, Valentine moved the cork heart just as Fred threw. Moved it just a few inches, but it was enough. He died instantly.
But I thought the knife was...
Somehow the knives got switched that night. Fred threw a real one.
I don't understand.
Fred used 13 knives in his act, a dozen genuine ones and the fake. And they were kept in a red case, and the trick knife was always in the last slot. I stood there and handed them to Fred, one at a time, as he threw.
I see. And what did the American police make of this?
A great deal.
But in the end they were satisfied it was an accident.
In the end?
Let me get this clear. Fred threw the knife that killed Valentine.
Yes.
But you handed it to him.
Yes.
And then you came in here last night on the pretext of giving his father snuff.
No, leave me alone.
What in hell's going on? What are you doing to her? Okay, baby, okay, there. Now, everything's gonna be fine.
Fred, they think I killed Victor because of the snuff on his jacket. But I can't have done because I didn't have my snuff box.
Yeah,
I didn't have it.
Come on, sweetheart, I'll get you up to your room.
No, let me go.
What?
Let me go.
Marina, what's come over you?
Just leave me alone, Fred. I'm going to my room. I guess I won't be down to tea.
What's all this nonsense about snuff, for Pete's sake?
Vanessa found snuff on the lapel of Victor's jacket. Somebody came down here last night and gave it to him.
Well, it couldn't be Marina. She left her snuff box with me.
With you?
The hinge was loose. She gave it to me on the way upstairs. I was going to mend it. Now, wait a bit. The carpet. There was snuff on this carpet. Nobody had to come in and give it to him at all.
Do you mean he wanted snuff so badly that he took a pinch of it from the carpet? Oh, and Fred, would you mind explaining something else that's been puzzling Mr. Munro and me?
Well?
What were you doing down here at about 1:45 this morning, outside this door? Oh, yes, I saw you.
Oh, now she tells it. Monroe, you know about this?
Vanessa did mention it.
All right. The answer's so sensible you're not going to believe it.
Have a bash, anyway.
£1,000. Yeah, I was trying to win that bet.
And did you succeed?
No.
Why not? I should have thought that breaking in here would have been a piece of cake for the incredible Gingrich.
You changed my mind. Something smelt wrong. And what about you, Doctor? If you saw me at the door, that means...
yes, I must have been up and doing myself. Brilliant deduction. I came down for a cup of coffee, actually.
Coffee?
I drank too much last night. Not used to it. I thought the coffee might even my keel.
Why didn't you say anything to me?
I thought you were in happy pursuit of £1,000 and shouldn't be disturbed.
Could you satisfy my curiosity about something, Doctor?
Anything at all.
Your face. What happened?
It was a fishing accident when I was a girl.
What kind of a fishing accident?
A hook, Mr. Gingrich. A double-barbed fish hook was embedded in my cheek, and the line to which the hook was connected was unfortunately jerked. The hook travelled the length of my face, tearing it rather drastically, as you can see.
And the person holding it was...
Oh, yes, my brother Victor.
I bet you loved him for that.
It didn't make me hate him.
Mr. Gingrich, excuse me, sir.
Yeah?
Was it you came to the kitchen window a while back and looked in?
Oh, yeah, I was on my way back from the gym. I guess I lost my bearings. Snowing fit to choke a horse. I saw the window all lit up and looked in to check where I was. Hey, say, did I scare you?
God, I thought it was Jack the Ripper.
Well, gosh, I'm sorry. Hey, but listen to this, Monroe. I was forgetting. There's a punch bag in that gym, a boxer's punch bag hanging from a beam, and someone's been using it for more than boxing practice.
Oh?
You remember the cross on the colonel's back, the cross in chalk?
Well?
The same crosses have been chalked all over that punch bag. And you know something else?
I'm willing to take a guess.
Okay.
I imagine the punch bag has been stabbed. Stabbed in many places where the crosses are chalked.
Well, how'd you know that?
Credit me with a little gumption.
Excuse me, Doctor.
Yes?
It's the jelly, miss.
Jelly? What about it?
I'm having a bit of a struggle with it.
Dear fellow, you're babbling.
Do you think somebody could give me a bit of help? There's a lot you can do with one hand, but turn a jelly onto a plate is humanly impossible.
All right, Albert, I'll give you a hand.
Oh, good. Got over your fit of collywobbles?
I'll be OK now I know it was at that window. It was only Mr. Gingrich.
Oh, was it? Right, come on then.
Albert, could I just keep you for a minute? You run along, Ella.
To that kitchen by myself? I'll wait for Albert if you don't mind.
Look, would you like me to come with you? I got a famous name for flipping jellies over.
Oh. Well, all right.
Lead on.
Half a mo.
What now?
Well, sir, that jelly's what you might call my masterpiece. There's a pint of port wine in it. I wouldn't like it to end up on the floor.
Albert will handle it like a day-old babe. Come on, Ella.
Thank you, sir.
Now, tell me, Albert, how long had your master had a bad leg?
Well, you mean the gout, sir? I should say it was about 6 months ago he first started limping.
Did he ever fall over?
Well, he did a couple of times, now you mention it. Said it affected his balance.
So you won't have had many sparring sessions with him lately, in the gym?
Oh, no, sir.
But you still keep yourself in trim with the punch bag?
Well, so I've let things slide a bit, I'm afraid. I've not been near the gym for, must be a month or two.
Leave it all to Ella, do you?
Ella, sir?
And her dumbbells?
Oh, yes. Well, she's got nothing else to occupy her mind here, sir. I think the exercise takes her mind off the bright lights. Actually, she read somewhere it would give her a fuller figure. You know, develop her out here, if you'll forgive the expression, Doctor. Yeah, it all went to her biceps.
Yeah, strong in the arm, is she?
Strong? She could lift it. Half a mo, what are you driving at? You can't suspect Ella, sir.
Do you know why they put her inside last time?
Inside where, sir?
Do you know why she was serving 5 years?
We never discuss anything like that, sir.
All right, I'll tell you.
It's none of my business, sir.
The last time she came over the wall, she left a pair of scissors behind.
Scissors?
Between the shoulders of a wardress.
Oh. Oh, Lord. Well, she must have had good reasons, sir, that's all I can say.
Albert, congratulations.
Sir?
You're the father of a big, bouncing jelly. Safely delivered, no complications, and a beautiful red complexion.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Well, cheer up, man. I know expectant fathers are supposed to suffer, but this is ridiculous.
Excuse me, Willie, I'm just off to the gym if anybody wants me. Take a look at that punch bag. Keep my jelly warm, will you?
Ho, ho, ho.
Fred, have you left Ella all alone in that kitchen?
Oh, she's fine now. That girl's tough.
Tough, yes. Did she happen to say anything more about the information she's been holding back?
It was strictly jelly talk.
I see.
Look, Dr. Grace, do you mind if I have a word with Albert alone?
Alone? Oh, very well. I've got to change my dress. Put on the party velvet.
Why not? Right, Albert, listen. We've got to move like a streak of lightning. Albert, are you paying attention?
Oh, sorry, sir, I was miles away.
What's the matter?
He's trying to pin it on Ella, sir. Ella.
Listen, Albert, that guy would pin it on the Pope.
Of course, he did it himself, didn't he, sir?
You can bet your life on it. Now, Albert, are you willing to take a risk? It'll get Ella off the hook.
Risk, sir?
I want you to go up to Monroe's room and bring me one of my knives. He took them off me this morning. You'll have to crack his bedroom door. Can you still do that?
Yeah, I think so, sir.
Yeah, now, the knives are in a flat red case about so wide. There's 10 knives inside. You bring me just one.
Yeah, what you want with a knife?
No time to explain. Just trust me. Now, go on, scoot.
Oh, very good, sir.
And Albert,
sir,
good luck. And hey, presto, Frederick, the trap begins to close. What's that? Somebody at the window. Okay, Monroe, just a minute.
Ye gods! Snowflakes like 10-penny pieces, look.
Silver dollars. Hey, what happened to you?
I fell in a bloody drift. I'm soaked to the skin.
Well, come on, in front of the fire.
No, I better go right up and get into something dry.
No, just warm your hands. Here, let me pour you a drink.
Ooh, there. Oh, skull. Oh. By the way, that punch bag.
Yeah?
Did you notice anything unusual about it, apart from its multiple wounds?
What else?
It's been lying on the floor recently.
Well, how'd you know that?
Sawdust all over it. Sawdust and resin off the floor. At some point it's been lowered to the floor on its pulley and then hoisted up again.
What does that signify?
Well, think about it, Gingrich, if you don't already know. But now I really must go and get out of these wet clothes. I'll see you later.
Oops. Oh, I am sorry, Mr. Monroe.
My fault, Albert. In you come.
Oh, thank you, sir.
I'm in my room if I'm wanted.
Very good, sir. Phew. That was close. I nearly dropped the knife at his feet.
Well, where is it?
Inside my sling.
Well, give quick. Thanks, Albert. You're solid.
Oh, it's just one thing, sir.
Yeah?
I think you said there were 10 knives in that case.
That's right.
Wrong, sir. There were only 9. Only 8. Now you've got that one.
Are you sure?
Yes, sir.
Well, that makes 2 knives unaccounted for. What in the hell's going on?
Are you still here, Albert? Isn't it time we were sitting down to your wonderful tea?
Yes, Doctor. I'll just go and see how Ella's doing.
Oh, ring the bell.
Oh, very good, miss.
That's right.
Did you look in on Marina while you were upstairs?
Yes, I think she must be feeling a bit better. She was having a bath. Oh, good evening, Lionel. Very smart.
Evening.
What's the matter? You seem to be in a very brown study. Is something wrong?
I rather think it is. Look here, I don't want to be an alarmist, but I think we should all stick together from now on.
Why? What's happened?
I've just been to my room. I had the impression somebody had been in there. Anyway, I thought I'd better check Gingrich's throwing knives.
Well?
2 more have vanished.
Oh, no.
I'm afraid so.
Lionel, I'm beginning to feel a certain sense of déjà vu. I have been here before.
What?
In the pages of certain detective stories, at a lull in the action, at the point in the story when the plot seems in danger of losing impetus and drying up.
Why? What happens then?
Well, there's only one sure way of setting the plot in motion again. That's to kill off another character. Oh, why doesn't Ella answer that bell?
Shall I ring again, Doctor?
No, Albert, I don't think it can be working. I think I'll just go and see what she's doing. Excuse me, won't you?
Albert?
Yes, sir?
When I went out of here to change my clothes and we collided in the doorway...
Oh, yes, sir.
Where had you been?
You mean when we bumped into each other in the doorway?
Yes. Where'd you just come from?
Albert had been doing a little errand for me.
Oh, what errand?
I sent him up to my room for a pack of cigarettes.
I see. Well, Vanessa? Vanessa, what is it?
It's Ella.
What?
Ella? Oh, no.
Oh, yes. A knife. One of yours, Mr. Gingrich. In her back. A downward blow struck with the right hand.
Right hand? But are you sure?
Certain.
Lord help us. So now there's two of them about. A right-hander and a left-hander.
Or just one, who happens to be both right and left-handed.
Fred? Fred? Oh, there you are. I changed my mind. I guess I will take tea after all. What's the matter? Is something wrong? Fred, has something else happened?
It was not the merriest of Christmas teas. Afterwards we gathered together in the library before a great fire. Marina and Albert played cards while Fred Gingrich sat for hours scribbling in an exercise book and scowling at anyone who interrupted his train of thought. Lionel Munro and I sat reading my brother's curious detective novels. At 1 o'clock I made cocoa for everyone, and surprisingly everyone drank it.
Not bad for cocoa.
Very nice indeed.
Well, I'm glad you all approve. And now perhaps we can relax. So I put down one of Victor's manuscripts somewhere.
And what was it called?
Died Laughing.
Died Laughing? Oh, yes. Here it is.
Oh, thank you.
I'm reading one called Relatively Dead.
Yet he had a certain knack for titles, if nothing else.
Yes. It's about a woman who murders her brother because she's somewhat embittered about a scar he inflicted on her in childhood.
Really? How does she kill him?
Strychnine in his cocoa, actually.
Oh, how sad.
Thanks.
What's that you're writing, Fred? Not a detective story, I hope? I suddenly feel the world is overburdened with them.
No, I've been working out a railway timetable of everybody's movements here in the last 24 hours, making a note of everything they've said, adding up all the little peculiarities like snuff on the colonel's jacket, and the chalk marks, and the slashed punch bag, and the writing on the blot pad. And finally, it's all starting to make sense. But for one damn thing.
And what's that?
Monroe's name on the blot pad just doesn't fit in.
Well, why not leave it out?
Leave it out?
Let me paint you a small picture. Victor is slumped at his desk. He's just been stabbed in the back by Lionel.
Well, thank you.
With his last ounce of strength, he scrawls Lionel's name on a sheet of paper. Plausible, Fred?
Well, why not? You said yourself he might have lived for a couple of minutes after the knife went in.
So I did. Very well. Victor has scrawled his attacker's name on a sheet of paper. And now this dying man, in terrific pain, sinking into oblivion, takes the trouble to turn that sheet of paper over and carefully blot it on the blotting paper? Still plausible?
Why, no. But what, then?
Well, it was red ink.
Red ink?
I think Vanessa's suggesting it was a red herring.
Or to throw the blame on you?
It had that effect.
Yeah, but listen, if you're not to blame, what about the burnt sheet of paper in the fireplace? Only you could have put it there. Dr. Grates proved that.
Yes, I did put it there.
You what?
I came in, found the body, found the report. After I read it, I decided to destroy it.
Report? What report?
What Victor had written was a report to the prison commissioners accusing Ella Chatto of stealing a £5 note and recommending her recall to prison.
But I don't follow. Why burn it?
Because I didn't believe a word of it. Even if I had, I wouldn't have thought it warranted sending the girl back to prison.
So you just went ahead and destroyed what could have been a vital piece of evidence?
I destroyed something false to save someone genuinely trying to reform herself.
So that's it. The last of the loose ends. Now it starts to make sense.
You mean you know who killed Victor?
Not exactly, but I think I know how it was done.
Well, are you going to share this discovery? I'm sure we're all on tenterhooks to know.
I'm sure you are, Dr. Grace. Can I demonstrate? You never caught my act, did you? The incredible Gingrich. Well, now's your chance. Imagine you're in the theatre. Up with a curtain and presto, Gingrich stands before you. Good evening, good evening. I am going to need one assistant. Could I have a volunteer from the audience? Oh, come on, folks. What's wrong? Isn't there one good sport out there tonight?
I don't mind having a bash, sir.
Gentleman in the front row. Splendid. Give him a big hand, please. Will you step forward, sir? That's right. Up you come. Your name, sir?
Albert Congleton.
May I call you Albert?
Yes, sir.
That's fine, Albert. Now, before we go any further, I bring out the snuff. There. And sprinkle a little smidgen on the carpet about here, I guess. Yeah, there. Fine. And now, ladies and gentlemen, you've all got to imagine I'm Colonel Grace. Everybody got that? Have you got that, Albert?
Yes, sir.
Right. It's 1:30 in the morning. I've kicked everybody out because my dog's dead and it's made me sore. So what are you doing in here?
Me, sir?
You, Albert? Get out of here. Never darken my library again.
You want me to leave the room, sir?
Sure, out with you. Scoot.
Right you are, sir.
Oh, Albert.
Yes, sir.
You wait out there 3 minutes, then knock on the door.
3 minutes. Very good, sir.
Okay, scram. Okay, folks, now what? Oh, yeah. I lock the door. Slip the bolts. There, that's that. And now the window. Now the window's secured. Now I'm all alone in a locked and sealed room, right? And to make sure nobody sneaks in on me, I switch on my cute little musical guillotine. There. Now, I go to my desk. I sit down. Take out a sheet of paper. Dunk my pen in the red ink. And write a report to the prison commissioners. Bad girl, felony of a fiver, ungrateful slut, blah, blah, blah. So kindly take her back to the pen, your humble, so forth and so on, Victor Grace, etc. There, right, done. Now, turn it over, blot, blot, blot. Ah, hold it. Now, you see what I did?
You blotted the report.
And so would he.
And yet there was no trace on the blotter.
Ergo?
The report had been written before. Earlier in the day.
Must have been. So how come it was on the desk when you broke in?
It was taken out of the desk and left there deliberately to implicate Ella.
Yeah, it fits, it fits. Okay, I don't have to write the report because it's already been done. There. Report back in the drawer. Now, you've got to imagine that a lot of time passes. Everybody goes to bed. Snow falls silently. Owls call. I'm in here alone for an hour or so. And then there's a tap on the door. Now listen. I want none of you to interfere during what happens next. Not a peep, okay? Just don't butt in, not even if the heavens fall. And remember, I'm Colonel Grace. Yeah, who's there?
It's me, sir. Albert.
Just a moment. And now I have to cut the music. Otherwise, I cut Albert. There. Now I let the good man in. Come in, Albert.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Just a tick. Albert, I'll switch the guillotine on again so we won't be disturbed. There. Now, are you ready, Albert?
What for, sir?
I'll show you. I've got something hidden away here. Under my armpit.
Oh, what's that, sir?
This.
A knife?
Yes, one of that frightful fellow Gingold's throwing knives, Albert. Well, take it. Go on. There.
What am I to do with this, sir?
Just hold on to it for a moment. There's one more piece of writing I've got to do.
What are you writing, sir?
The name of my old buddy, Lionel Monroe. Right, now blot it carefully. There, leaving a neat impression on the blotter. All right, Albert. Throw the original on the fire, will you? Here you are.
Very good, sir.
Is it all right?
Yes, it's burning.
Well, give it a poke to make sure.
All gone, sir.
Good. Now what? Oh, yeah. My report on Ella. There. I leave this so, on top of the desk. Now, Albert, are you ready?
Anything you say, sir.
I lie on the carpet. So, flat on my stomach. There we are. I say, wait a minute.
What's wrong, sir?
I do believe somebody's spilt snuff on this carpet. I've got it all over the front of my jacket. Oh, well, another little clue to bamboozle them all, what? Right. You ready, Albert?
Yes, sir.
Get in position, then.
Position?
Stand at my head, facing me.
Like this, sir?
Fine. Now, have you got the chalk?
Chalk?
Oh, no? Oh, that's all right. I've got a piece here in my pocket. There you are.
What do I do with this, sir?
Find the spot.
Pardon?
Bend over me and prod a finger into my back.
Oh.
You're looking for the heart.
Yeah.
No, higher.
Yeah.
Bit to the right.
Yeah.
Ah, there. That's it. Now chalk across there. Done it?
Yes, sir.
You've got the knife?
Yes, sir.
Good. Now stay just as you are, facing me. Now bend over me and make a practice stab at that cross on my back.
Like, this, sir.
That's it. Fine. Now I want you to raise that knife really high. You doing that?
Yes, sir.
Right above your head?
As high as it'll go, sir.
Now just think of the strength you could get behind a blow like that. All your weight coming down on top of me. The knife would go right in, see? Up to the hilt.
Yes, sir. You mean like this, sir?
Oh, my God, man, you've killed him.
I'm sorry, Mr. Gingrich, but you did ask for it, sir.
Fred, oh, my darling!
No, Mrs. Grace. Stay where you are. It's too late to help him. He's as dead as a doornail.
Not so fast, Albert.
Blimey.
I've still got 2 minutes left before I peg out, remember?
Fred!
Now, quiet, Marina. Stand up. I'm dying, but on my travels out east, I've learned to blot out pain. So I totter over to the wall, switch up the guillotine. So, now it's all clear for Albert to go out through the door. He slips out, and I lock it, shoot the bolts home. Now I stagger back to the guillotine switch, and presto, sealed off from the world. And now over to my desk. I sit down, pick up my pen, then I die. Like so. How's that, Albert?
Very good, sir. That knife.
This? That's a fake, old chap. A trick knife, Albert.
You mean I went upstairs into Mr. Munro's room and bought you a fake knife?
No, I broke into the room before you and stole it myself.
I don't get it. Why send me up to steal one?
There is no way a one-handed man can crack Monroe's door. I was testing you.
Fred, Albert is a one-handed man. That sprain of his, it's certainly not a counterfeit.
Yeah, but Albert shared a certain trick with his master. He can blot out pain. You bust that arm deliberately, right?
Yes, sir. I just put it in a door and twisted it.
You're as cracked as a lump of moon rock, aren't you, Albert?
No, sir. I've just been following orders like a good soldier. It was all up with the Colonel. You know that, Doctor. No future except as a cabbage on wheels. So he thought he'd go on one last campaign.
Campaign? With what object?
To lumber you with a murder conviction.
To lumber me? He lumbered down here everybody.
Oh, no, sir. As the Colonel saw it, at the end of the day, when all the false scents had been blown away, the police would have to zero in on you. Who else had already put his knife into one member of the family? Who else had a history of passing through locked doors? Who else stood to marry a rich heiress?
And Ella? Was killing her part of his campaign?
No, sir. Regrettable, that. But Ella was the only one with anything against me. We worked out the alibi. We'd been in bed together. She thought it was protecting her. Of course, naturally suspicion would fall on a girl with a violent record. At least, that's how I put it to her, sir. When she said she was going off to tell the whole truth, I had to shut her up. Put yourself in my position.
And you killed the dog?
Dr. Watson? Yes, sir. Colonel's orders.
I thought he was so fond of it.
Too fond to risk it going to a bad home or pining away. Wanted it buried alongside his own body, he did. Oh, I hope somebody will see to that. Wanted me dead and buried with him as well. Said I was his faithful arm too. But I said that was carrying faithfulness beyond bounds.
And all this because he thought I murdered Valentine?
Because he knew you did so.
He was wrong, Albert.
I don't think so, sir.
But he was. Valentine killed himself.
No, madam.
Yes, Albert. I could never tell Victor this. Valentine made me swear. But Valentine went through life in a constant state of terror. I know, I saw him. I had to nurse him through the nights when he couldn't sleep, when he lay whimpering and trembling at the thought of all the risks he'd run during the day. He'd always had to prove to his father that he was braver than anyone else. It was all an act for his father's benefit. And his biggest fear was that Victor would find out the truth. Until in the end he couldn't go on pretending. He switched the knives himself. He left his heart unprotected deliberately. That's the truth.
Well, Albert, what do you intend doing now?
Well, I've been thinking about that, sir. As far as I can see, there are two options. I could shoot you all, or I could Make you a nice pot of tea and some goose sandwiches. I don't know which.
Sandwiches, Albert, definitely.
There's a bit of port wine jelly left.
Oh, gosh, terrific.
And mince pies with rum butter inside.
Oh, what a feast.
After all, it is Christmas, isn't it? Right. Stay there. I won't be a jiffy.
Albert, you get away from that door.
Door, sir?
Listen, there's music. You haven't switched off the guillotine.
There is no guillotine, sir. Just one of the Colonel's little pranks. He told me himself was all a blind. Had you fooled always, didn't he?
Are you sure?
Just watch me open it and walk out of here. Oh, God!
Poor old Albert. He finally got his cut.
A decent British murder.
Huh?
With a gory French ending.
The Red Telephone Box by Ken Whitmore.
Oh. Hello, Cockfoster. Blimey, 2:15.
Sorry to wake you, Mr. Cockfoster. It's Detective Sergeant Frogman here. I'm at the scene of a murder.
Go on.
The corpse has had its head cut off.
Charming. Go on.
He's the vice chairman of the police committee. Name of Vic Troller.
Wonderful.
I don't know if you've met him.
No, and now I don't expect I will.
No, sir.
Living?
No, he's dead.
I know he's dead. I said, what did he do for a living?
Oh, a financial and property consultant.
What's the address?
The Coppers, Mells Drive. Copper Beach is not our kind of coppers.
I don't want the roots and derivations. Just tell me where it is.
It's halfway along Mells Drive. Very grand part of town. A big half-timbered place set well back from the road. There's no number on the gate, but there's a red telephone box on the pavement right outside.
Did you say a red telephone box?
Yes, sir.
Are there any other colour in this town?
No, sir. Sorry, sir. Actually, that's where I'm speaking from.
From a red telephone box?
Yes, sir. The phone in the house has been disconnected. Ripped out.
I see. This geezer's head. Is it about the place?
No, sir. We're looking for it now.
Okay. On my way. Darling, are you awake? Duty call, sweetheart. I'll try and get back for a bite of breakfast. Now, don't forget the man's coming to fit the carpet in the morning. You said to remind you that Finchfield's carpet... Never mind, darling. Go bye-byes. Now, where's that other sock? Good morning, sir. Morning. I'm Chief Inspector Cockfoster. Who are you? Oh, blimey. Wait a bit, half a mo. Well, fancy meeting you here. Benjamin Dobell in person. Now, what's your part in these horrible doings?
Nothing, Mr. Cockfoster. I'm Snow White. I was in bleeding bed one night.
What are you doing in the frozen north?
I'm trying to earn me living. An honest one. Butlin.
Oh, no, I've heard it all. Where's the law?
There's one named Frogman in the study with the body. 3 out the back, looking for the nut.
Looked under your bed, have they?
What?
Which is the study?
Oh, second on the left.
I'll get that if it's okay with the Butlers' Union. Shove off and polish the nutcrackers.
Yes, Mr. Cockfoster.
Hello? What can I do for you?
Dr. Lamb, police surgeon.
Good. Come in.
I'm also Mr. Victrola's personal physician.
Well, that's handy. Wait a minute. It's Lamb, the leg breaker.
Pardon?
I was at the match on Saturday. I should really introduce myself. Raymond Cockfoster, new ICCID. We've just moved up here. Your bowling action was very reminiscent. Very reminiscent. You never played for the county?
Thanks, but I'm not that good.
Too good for club cricket in the northern wastes. It's years since I saw googlies like that.
Howsomever, come and view the body. Oh, by the way, I'll be coming to see you with my prostate. This way, Doctor. And so, what do you make of it so far, Frogman?
Well, obviously foul play.
Full marks?
The body's lying behind the desk. Well, as you see, so I take it he was sitting there when it happened.
What happened?
He could have been shot. Then, whoever it was, yanked off the head so we wouldn't find the bullet.
How was the head taken off, Doc?
It looks as if it's been sawn.
Neat job?
Well, effective.
Any other offerings, Frogman?
It is possible this isn't Mr. Victrola at all. The shoes are on the wrong feet. It's possible somebody dressed him in Mr. Victrola's clothes and in the heat of the moment slipped up on the shoes.
Which seems a very silly mistake.
Yes, sir.
Well, Doctor, is it Victrola or ain't it? Can you tell in the absence of the loaf?
I won't know until I've had a good look in the mortuary.
But then you'll know for certain.
Well, not absolutely. He's never had any chronic organic problems as far as I can remember. No operation scars.
Fortunate man. Until now.
Won't the fingerprints do? Oh, this place should be full of them. His office, his secretary's...
Secretary's what?
Office.
You were going to say something else.
Secretary's flat.
Ah, like that was it. Yes, it might have to be prints, but I much prefer teeth. Well, I can let you go now, Doc. We'll have him in the morgue in about an hour. Let me know what you find in the morning.
I'll do my best.
Oh, Doc.
Yes?
I must say, I admire your daring.
Daring? What do you mean?
Your cool audacity.
What are you referring to?
Cricket. What else? Your slow bowling.
Ah.
Yes, it takes true guts to toss up such lazy-looking deliveries. Of course, you impart a lethal spin.
I do my best.
The art of deception?
Quite.
I rejoice to see it.
Thank you.
On the cricket pitch.
I beg your pardon?
I'd have enjoyed betting against you.
Oh, you were a batsman.
You see before you a man who topped the metropolitan averages 1963 to 1968.
Really? Well, perhaps we could have a session in the nets.
I look forward to the contest with some relish, although my eyesight isn't what it was.
Yes, well, good night, Inspector. Good night.
Tell you what, Frogman, we'll set up shop in here.
Right, sir.
Where's his wife?
In bed.
She knows she's a widow?
She got up and took a loo.
And?
She was very disturbed.
I'll go and have a word. Where's her room?
Straight up, turn left, along the corridor, door facing you.
I'll nip up there now. Hello, Dobell. Can't sleep?
You're joking.
Why are you loitering on the landing?
I'm just going to bed.
I'll see you later. Am I right for the mistress of the house?
Yeah, that door there.
Thought so. Good night, Dobell. I said scram. Stop hanging about like a gentleman's gentleman.
Sorry, Mr. Cockfoster.
Come on, I know you ain't asleep. Okay.
Stick 'em up.
Oh, yeah?
I said stick 'em up, cowboy.
They're up.
Close the door.
Right.
What do you mean, riding your horse into my bedroom?
I'll take him out, shall I?
No. Leave him there. Give him some hay and come over and sit on my bed. I like your style.
Oh, that's fine. I like yours.
You think we could be partners?
Why not?
Stick up a bank together?
Not likely.
Why not? No guts?
I'm a policeman.
I like your honesty.
Oh, tell.
And I like your horse.
He's well bred, I will say that.
So in reality you belong to me.
In what sense?
The entire police force belongs to me. They were left to me in my father's will. Also the patrol cars and police horses. My husband stole them, every one.
No wonder you did him in.
The Royal Air Force belongs to me too. All those fine aeroplanes, mine.
Your husband stole them?
The government. Thieving hyenas. Like to see my workshop?
What, out at the back? It's 3 in the morning.
No, in the next room, through there. Come on, I'll show you.
Wait, you've got no clothes on.
This is a nudist colony.
Oh.
Through here, please. There. Now, swear you won't steal anything.
On my mother's deathbed. What are you, a carpenter?
Cabinet maker. I was apprenticed to Chippendale.
Cool.
It was a mistake.
How so?
He stole my legs.
Lovely tool.
Get your thieving paws off, monsieur.
Sorry. Bow saws, fret saws, panel saws, chainsaws, rip saws, axe saws, surgical saws. All beautifully cleaned and oiled.
Of course. I was apprenticed to Hepplewhite.
He stole you both fronts.
Who heard about that?
One of these here saws could cut a man's head off.
Easily. I've done it several times. Mind you don't lose yours.
1 inch enough to a wise man. I'll say night-night.
Where are you going?
To stable me horse. Come on, Dobbin. Night-night. Hello. The Berlin Philharmonic.
Hello, Mr. Cockfuster.
Sounds like Marla.
How would you know?
I know everything. Mind if I switch off? Enough. No more. 'Tis not so sweet now as it was before.
Yeah. 'Tis a bit sad. Well, that's your Marlowe, isn't it?
Where'd you pick up a taste for the Vienna School?
Music Appreciation Club, Parkhurst.
You want the Barbaroli version?
I served a stretch with Fernando Musaka, the Mad Axe composer. Him what done in the conductor for bringing in the piccolos too early. We had many a musical evening together in the top security wing. Here, they let him bring in his own grand piano.
What did you play, the Aeolian Kosh?
No, I used to...
That's enough of your artistic memoirs. Save them for the third programme. Now, what are you doing in these parts, son?
Could ask you the same, couldn't I?
Lip. How much did all this stereo gear cost you? It's all brand new. Yeah, and new records.
It's all paid for. You want to see the receipts?
Paid for with what?
Savings.
Not behind. How much was this geezer paying you?
100 a week and all found.
How long you been at liberty?
6 weeks.
When did you last see your master?
Mr. Victrola? Well, this morning. I brushed his dandruff off when he left for work. He didn't come out for dinner.
Was that unusual?
No, he hardly ever did. Couldn't stand his wife's conversation. We was all in bed by about 11. We still hadn't come home. Sometime after 1, I heard his car draw up on the gravel.
You was still awake?
I was playing Shostakovich on the stereo. I suffer from insomnia.
You didn't go down and make him a cocoa?
He wouldn't have thanked me.
So he could have brought somebody in with him?
Yeah.
Or somebody could have crept downstairs to him?
Yeah.
What finally took you downstairs?
Do you know Shostakovich's 8th Symphony?
Not intimately.
Well, the brass section has some terrific shrieking climaxes. Here, I'll play you a bit if you like.
Now, get on with it.
Suit yourself. Well, the record come to an end and I drew the covers up to me chin. I was about to nod off when I realised something. There'd been a shriek I never remembered before. I put the record on again. The shriek wasn't there. Well, I lay down and I thought about it for a bit. Then I sat up and I realised the shriek must have come from somewhere else. Well, I went downstairs and I found him, topped like a soft-boiled egg.
Why did Victrola want a heavyweight?
Wanted a butler, didn't he?
A battler?
A butler.
Well, why did he want a muscle man? Who was he scared of?
Arabs.
Tar. We'll have further words later. Oh, what do you make of the mistress of the house?
She's not as loopy as she makes out.
What makes you say that?
She fends people off. There are men inside exactly like that. Form of protection, isn't it?
How's she run the house?
Like a quartermaster.
She can handle money?
Yeah, they always can. Anybody tries to rob her, she goes for the axe. Result, she don't get robbed.
Right, I'll see you. This hi-fi gear cost a few £1,000.
I saved up for it.
What, in 6 weeks? Mr. Peter Royal, that right?
Yes.
So you're the deceased's nephew. You live in the top story and write plays.
Yes.
That must be interesting.
Well, yes.
Yes, indeed. sold any to Hollywood?
No, I write chiefly critiques of society.
Oh, yeah?
Plays of, well, social relevance.
Police thuggery, racism, that kind of thing?
Well...
Occupied on what at this precise moment?
A piece in praise of the Palestine struggle.
Pro-Palestine?
Pro-humanity.
Good for you. Any money in that?
I don't do it for money, surprisingly enough.
Oh, you write to change society. I get it. Very worthy, too. I applaud you for it. Did you by any chance do this geezer in?
No, I only slay them in print. I'm a fearful coward, actually.
Now then, Miss Victrola, you were...
Ms.
Beg pardon?
Ms.
Where? Oh. Ah, not Miss or Mrs., but... could I call you Angela, is it?
Ms. Call me Miss Victrola.
How old are you,
18 last month.
You were out when this happened?
Right.
At 1, 2 in the morning?
Right.
Doing what, may I ask?
You have exactly the same tone as my father.
Doing what, may I ask?
Rallying.
Oh. Motor rallying?
Correct.
Did you win?
No, I got lost.
Oh. Friend of Mark Thatcher's, are you?
Ha.
What about your navigator?
That's why I got lost. I didn't have one. He had to finish a whodunit.
You what?
To write a play. He does it for a living.
Ah, you mean upstairs, writer fella?
Yes, my cousin Peter.
Did you say who done it? I thought he wrote, what is it? Plays of social relevance.
Oh, yes, that's when he's Peter Royal. But then when he writes whodunits, he's Fred Martin.
Is he indeed? Now, I'm glad you told me that.
Morning, sir.
Morning, Frogman.
Been here all night, sir?
Yeah, going through his letters. Half of them in Arabic. Got a translator lined up. Don't take your coat off. I want you to go and break the news to his secretary, right. Belinda Ruby. Ask her to... Cockfoster. Oh, hello, darling. Sorry, What, already? It's only just gone 9. Took our carpet away? What for? What's it measure? 22 by 16. Why? 21 by 70. 21 by 17. There's something wrong with their tape measure. Yeah, like I always do, by proceeding across the room, placing one foot in front of the other. Yeah, okay, so I might have got it wrong, but listen. Listen, darling. You should not have let them cart it away. That is a 15,000 quid doormat we're talking about. What? No. As a dedicated pessimist, I'm convinced we'll never see it again. That is a 15,000... Scissors? Oh, you did? Oh, thank God. What do you mean they have ways of making it fit? I don't like the sound of that at all. What were those measurements again? 21 by 17? What do they propose? Stretching one side and shrinking the other? I'm not raising my voice only when somebody makes dire threats against my carpet. Yes. All's well that ends well. Yeah. What are they named again? Finchfields. Yeah, right. Yes, I'll try and be in for lunch, but don't count on it. Bye. Know anything about Finchfield's carpets?
Little shop in Kirkland Gate.
Any good? Fitting carpets?
Couldn't say.
Now, where were we?
Belinda Ruby.
Oh, yes. She was apparently more than his shorthand typist, so be gentle, but stay alert.
Hello?
Oh, come in, Doctor.
Morning.
Off you go, Frogman.
Right, sir.
Good look at the body?
Yes.
And?
Well, I'm 99% convinced.
It's Victrola.
Victrola's very shapely hands.
You still sound doubtful.
Trouble is, I only examined him once in any depth. For an insurance policy.
He carry a lot of insurance?
I wouldn't know.
How long have you known him?
5 years.
You've been in this town 5 years?
Well, getting on for 7 now.
How do you survive it as one southerner to another?
Well, it's not a town that welcomes strangers. For instance, a Cockney accent is highly suspicious.
Well, that makes my wife a leper. Not to mention yours truly.
Would you like to bring her to tea at my place? I've got beautiful honey.
Oh, Tom, that's very kind of you. Where do you live?
I've got a cottage a couple of miles from here. Keep bees, grow flowers.
Sounds idyllic. Your wife, not mine, Cockney.
Oh, I'm not married. That's suspect, too. I could tell Mrs. Cockfrost about the best butchers and grocers and where to buy good glass and linen.
Oh, thank very much. And you could teach me the googly. Oh, by the way, what do you know about Finchfield's carpets?
Quite a good name. I've never dealt with them.
Well, here's my problem. I have this carpet. Well, my wife has this carpet. Well, we both have this carpet. Nice length of Aubusson. Family heirloom made for the ancestral home by the wife's grandma, Lady Clutterbuck. Measures 22 foot by 16. Now, our new drawing room measures 21 by 17. Got it? Carpet 22 by 16, drawing room 21 by 17. Now, how do you get out of that one?
Well, knock a wall down. Move it back a foot.
Knock a wall down? Ah, but that still leaves a 1 foot gap down the side.
Put in a 1 foot cavity wall.
Sounds a bit drastic. Now, you see, let me find a bit of paper. It's Mr. Finchfield himself I want. No, I do not want the fit-in foreman. I want the head codger of the lodge. Gone to lunch at 11 in the morning? Gone to lunch in London. OK, pass this on to that fit-in foreman. Tell him not to touch Cockfoster's carpet until further notice. Got that? Pass it on. Goodbye.
Sir, she's flown.
Belinda Ruby.
Packed her traps and gone.
Knicker drawers empty?
The lot. Passport, everything.
So, she's made off. Ports alerted?
Sir.
If that geezer with no top ain't Victrola...
Yes, sir.
It looks like he set this all up so that he can fly the coop.
Yes, sir.
I want the fraud squad in that office. 10 o'clock, Frogman.
Yes, sir.
You can go home if you have one.
Oh, yes, sir. You staying the night again?
I want to go through this fraud squad stuff again. Oh, by the way...
Sir?
I'll thank you to stop making eyes at Ms. Victrola.
Oh?
Ms. Victrola. Ms. Don't let those big grey eyes and hair the colour of ripe corn warp your judgment. I'll see who that is.
Sir. Frogman here. Oh, marvellous. Terrific. She's what? Oh, no. Badly? Can you get her back here, or do you want... No, bring her back if she's fit to travel. Cheers. Yes. Thank you.
Belinda Ruby?
Yes, sir. Hotel in Liverpool. The Ambassador.
Ah, what does that mean? America? Isle of Man?
She's been hit on the head. They found her wandering about the corridors, concussed. They're bringing her back.
Liverpool? What's that? 20 miles? Shouldn't take more than half an hour. Belinda Ruby? Age?
28.
I'll get this down, Frogman.
Sir.
So what happened, Miss Ruby?
I was rung at midnight on Tuesday and told to go to the Ambassador Hotel in Liverpool, room 56, to pack a bag, passport, money, certain documents.
Rung by whom?
A hotel receptionist, a man speaking for Mr. Victrola.
Accent?
Sorry?
Accent of the receptionist.
Oh, Liverpool, I suppose.
Go on.
So that's what I did. I drove to Liverpool, parked in front of the hotel, went up to number 56.
Then?
I knocked on the door.
Yes?
It swung open. There was no light in the room, but the light from the corridor, it was enough to show Ray in a chair smiling at me.
Ray?
Raymond, Mr. Victrola.
What did he say?
He said nothing. He simply smiled, and I stepped into the room towards him. Then there was a sudden sound behind me, a scuffle, and then a God Almighty blow on the head. The next thing I knew, I was walking along a corridor, on a completely different floor, they tell me, and a small man with a big ginger beard was propping me up and clicking his tongue, you know, disapprovingly. He thought I was drunk.
Ah. Victrola was in a chair, sitting?
Yes.
Smiling?
Yes.
You were under the impression he called you there to fly the coop.
I'm sorry.
You'd gone there to flee the country with him. It didn't surprise you. You were ready to do a vanishing trick.
No, it didn't surprise me.
He'd robbed people blind and was getting out.
Not exactly.
Approximately.
That's what the press will say. They'll make a feast of it.
Was anything missing when you came round?
The money.
How much?
15,000.
What?
We always kept a 15,000 float for emergencies.
Anything else missing?
Certain documents. Business documents.
OK. Mr. Blinder of the fraud squad will talk to you about those. Are you feeling fit?
Quite well, considering.
Only, I'd like you to cast your eye over a body with no head.
What?
And Frogman. Sir? Fingerprint the ambassador.
You mean the room?
I mean the ambassador. Oh, good morning. Could I possibly speak to Mr. Finchfield? 10 o'clock. OK, I'll ring back at 10. And meanwhile, I want nobody to touch Cook Foster's carpet. Pass it on. OK, Frogman. Sir? Let's just recap on the scoreboard. This geezer vanishes in a snowstorm of bouncing checks and business swindles. Or does he? In Victrola's home, office, car, we found 1 million fingerprints that fit the corpse. More dabs than une de manche à la grande jatte. If that stiff ain't Victrola, he went everywhere Victrola went and touched everything Victrola touched.
Even at the ambassador in Liverpool?
Yes, one set of prints on Victrola's cigar case under his pillow. Could be a plant.
Victrola could have hired the corpse to do it.
To run around touching everything he touched.
Oh, no, that's not humanly possible.
Don't be so dogmatic, Frogman. Eh? We are deep in the area of bluff, double bluff and triple bluff, and in this game Victrola excelled. Now what else have we? Reactions to viewing the body in the morgue. The secretary says the body is definitely Victrola. Well, she would, it's a good get-out. The daughter and nephew have no idea. Well, fair enough. Or is it? Would you know your dad without his loaf? Think about it. His wife says it's Anthony Eden. Who done it, Frogman? Who done what, if it comes to that? Was your husband in the habit of smoking a cigar in bed?
What would I know of his nocturnal hobbies? I was only the wife.
Apart from yourself, Mrs. Victrola, who do you think might wish to murder your husband?
Can you talk of nothing else? Have you no other topics of conversation?
I'm investigating a murder.
There you go again. You're obsessed with this subject. It's very unhealthy. You're in danger of boring the bloomers off me. Have you no small talk?
Very well. What do you know about Finchfield's carpets?
They don't fly.
Is that so?
They are not magic. Yet they carry a certificate of airworthiness. It bears examination.
I'll look into it.
Do. Look, I'll tell you the truth. Open your notebook, write this down. My husband flew away. I saw him go, in a comet.
British Airways comet?
Halley's comet. It was directly over this roof on Tuesday night. He won't be back for 70 years. He's outwitted you. Why aren't you writing this down?
It's embossed on my skull.
All the telephone boxes belong to me.
Why did you suddenly say that?
What?
About the telephone boxes belonging to you.
Because it happens to be true.
The red ones?
Lapis lazuli.
Not the one outside your gate.
Has that one come back? I keep shooing it away. It's always hanging around here.
So I'd noticed.
Ringing pathetically to be fed.
Are you as daft as you make out?
Do you mean, am I masquerading as a lunatic?
Yes.
That I have yet to establish.
So have I.
But I'm on the right track.
I can't say I am.
And don't keep me long. I'm in a car rally tonight.
Pardon?
Car rally. Pack it in, get on with it.
This is Friday night.
I know.
Your pa died late Tuesday, early Wednesday.
So what?
Doesn't seem decent.
Hurry up. What do you want to know?
Was your pa strict with you?
You're in a backward northern town, Mr. Cockfoster. This is still a savagely repressive society, and in that respect my dad was a proper Ayatollah. Worse, because he didn't do it from any religious or ideological motives.
What were his motives?
The same as yours with your children.
What are those? I sometimes wonder.
Oh, that's simple enough. You want us all in the same moral straitjacket you were in when you were young.
Couldn't you say the same for the actual Ayatollah?
So, you admit you're an Ayatollah?
I'm not here to bandy words with an impudent chit. Is Peter Royal your lover? Did your pa discover his own house was a haven of free love?
Are you blind? Did they send you here for a rest cure? Alistair Lamb and Peter are the lovers.
Dr. Lamb?
Yes, Alistair Lamb. Of course, I have slept with Peter. You have to be friendly living under the same roof.
It's only polite.
Dad had a string of lovers. He ran away with the first one when I was born. It turned Mum mental.
Oh, come in, Frogman. What is it now?
Report on the fingerprints at the ambassador.
Can I go?
Just a minute. Any joy?
Well, there were 5 criminals in residence of one sort or another.
It's a big hotel. Anyone we know?
No, not really.
Tell me later. Sit down.
Sir.
I was just finishing with Miss...
Okay, get on with it.
You always refer to your pa in the past tense. So you're certain he's dead?
And what? On the contrary, I know he's alive.
Eh? How?
I've seen him.
When?
The night after he's supposed to have lost his head.
Where?
At the kitchen window.
In this house? What was he doing?
Smiling at me.
Smiling at you? This is a load of codswallop.
Okay.
Didn't you go out and speak to him?
Yes, I ran out, but he'd gone.
What time was this?
Just after 8 in the evening.
Why didn't you come and tell me? I was here at the time.
And give him away?
Why so keen to protect him all of a sudden?
Well, I do love him. Biologically, unavoidably, umbilically, it can't be helped.
You're giving him away now.
But he's in South America by now. Or wherever.
If you did your pa in, darling, this is just the kind of tale you'd tell.
Well, so it is. Look, I really must shove.
You've got sweet motives. He was a hypocritical tyrant, he turned your ma mental, and you stand to inherit.
Inherit what? He owed millions.
Inherit this house.
I imagine it's a company house. We'll all be on the street.
That doesn't seem to worry you.
Oh, if Allah wills, so be it. Can I go now, please?
Okay. Send your cousin in.
Don't keep him long. He's navigating.
You fancy that little baggage, Frogman?
Yes, sir. Why not?
What would your wife think?
Oh, she wouldn't really care. She's broad-minded.
How old are you?
29.
First wife?
Second, sir.
Men of my age are on sinking sands. 1, 2, 3, 4...
Sir, what's he up to?
5. Measuring this study.
Eh?
If it's going on the market, I quite fancy it as a setting for a certain family heirloom. Now, where was I? 4?
5.
4.
5.
Oh, damn you, Frogman, I'll start again.
You wanted me?
Oh, come in, Mr. Royal. Or is it Fred Martin?
Ah.
Very naughty of you, hiding your light under a bushel. Any excuse?
I like to keep Fred dark. People wouldn't take Peter Royal seriously if they knew he hammered away at whodunits.
You do surprise me. I should have thought it'd be the other way round.
Oh, no.
I'd have sworn it was. Whodunits, eh? So you excel in the art of bluff, double bluff, and triple bluff.
Hardly excel. It's hardly an art.
Howsomever, I'm very interested. Tell me about this whodunit you had to finish.
Must I?
Please.
I have a car rally.
And I've a murder inquiry. Now, this whodunit of yours.
It's called Death on Delivery.
About cricket?
No, this couple received... Do we really have to plod all the way through this?
The bare outlines.
This couple received a huge packing case one morning.
Stop. There. I'm hooked already. If it had been socially important, I'd have been nodding off by now. Go on, boy.
They haven't a clue what it can be. It's nail tight and secured with a wire, you know.
Oh, I know. Stapled and so forth, with the lettering burnt into the wood.
That's right. So the husband sends the wife for a claw hammer and pincers and so on.
You know, Frogman, in a socially relevant play, the husband would have fetched the tools himself, or at least a social point would have been made. Am I right, Mr. Royal?
Well, maybe. Anyway, when she returns a couple of minutes later, the husband's nowhere to be found.
Vamoose. Are you enjoying this, Frogman?
Oh, quite interesting, sir.
Sorry, go on with the tale.
She looks everywhere. Not a sign of him. In the end, she calls for the police. I mean, he was in his dressing gown and so on.
The plot thickens.
So the police arrive. A couple of lads in a panda cart. It's nightfall by now.
That's right. It will be.
The upshot is, after poking all over the place, they finally open the packing case, which is still nailed up. And the husband's body is inside.
Dead?
Suffocated.
Superb. How'd you get there?
Professional secret.
You know what?
I'm not going to tell you.
Listen, I'm the law.
Be that as it may.
I could do you for obstructing the police.
Over a fictional crime?
I'll bet you don't know.
Have it your way.
Don't worry, I'll work it out. Listen, Cock, have you got any more where that came from?
Can I please get off to my car rally?
This car rally sounds mighty important.
Not more than any other car rally.
So stop fidgeting. Tell me just one more. What was the last one you wrote?
The red telephone box.
Red? Not O'Donnell, not Humbug Stripes?
No, red. Why?
Very well. The plot.
A man is being shadowed by the police. Tailed. A mole.
A man or a mole? Oh, yes, I'll get you. Carry on.
He goes into a telephone box.
Post office rig.
Just a common old garden phone box on a busy corner in broad daylight.
And he doesn't come out again.
Right.
He disappears.
Yes.
Sucked up the wire by a man with a straw.
In actual fact, no. There is a logical answer.
There always is.
I fail to see how this helps in the case of my uncle.
It helps me to see how your mind works. Good night, Fred. Bon voyage.
Good night.
There's always a logical answer, Frogman.
Yes, sir.
Howsomever, confusion here has made her a masterpiece. I think they're putting me through an IQ test to see if I'm worthy of this post. Vice Chairman of the Police Committee drew the short straw to be guinea pig.
More likely the toss for it. Tells you when, heads you lose. Heads you lose. Oh, sorry, sir.
Cocoa, gentlemen.
Oh, Chardo Bell. Bring it over here.
Drink it up while it's warm.
Your kindness is all the more prized, Dobell, because it comes from a dedicated mobster, blackmailer, and probably murderer.
Is he being sarcastic again?
And draw those curtains.
I'm not your bleeding butler, Mr. Cockfoster.
Lip.
Sorry, Mr. Cockfoster.
And get that on your way out.
Good evening. 31036. Mrs. Victrola's residence. Dobell speaking.
Oh, Frogman, give me that report on the fingerprints at the hotel.
Right, yes. What?
Cooper, burglar.
Okay.
Snodman, burglar.
Yeah.
Whistler, burglar.
Yeah.
Pluck, soliciting. Flanders, burglar. Henry Pluck, persistent soliciting in public loos.
Yeah.
Henry
Very well, sir.
Pluck.
It's Dr. Lamb for you, Mr. Cockfoster.
Oh, give it here, will you?
Here you are, Gov. Well, I'll just be off for my nightcap.
Scotch?
Das Lied von der Erde.
Hello, Doc. What can I do for you?
Hello, Chief. I'm ringing from home. How are you?
Well, this perishing prostate makes my eyes water, I don't mind telling you, but I'll see you about that some other time.
Sooner the better. Listen, I hope I'm not dragging you away from anything vital.
No.
But I've just had a little idea. I was wondering...
What's that bell I can hear?
It's my doorbell. I must have visitors.
And you better answer it.
I suppose I had. Would you mind holding on a moment, or shall I ring you back?
You go and see who it is. I'll hold on. Nothing spoiling this end.
Sorry about this. Back in a minute.
I'll tell you what, Frogman.
Yes, sir?
How you fit a 22 by 16 carpet into a 21 by 17 space remains the most baffling mystery.
Oh.
Of course, Alfred Hitchcock might disagree.
What, the film director?
He once had the notion of starting a film in a car factory.
Oh.
The detective and the foreman of the works walked together alongside the conveyor belt, watching a car being assembled. Now, to start with, it's just a couple of nuts and bolts. But bit by bit, the entire car takes shape before their eyes. You there, Doc? No, he ain't. Finally, they reach the end of the conveyor belt. The car stands before them, shining in all its splendour. As they look, the door swings open, and a man's body falls out.
What's the explanation?
Alfred Hitchcock couldn't find one. He never made the film.
Cockfoster! My God! Cockfoster, are you there?
What? Yes, still here. Something wrong?
It's terrible. Horrible. You've got to get over here.
Now, calm down, son. Bit of bedside manner.
I'm sorry.
Take a nice deep breath, Doc. You done that? Now, tell me nicely and calmly what's bothering you.
Sorry. There's a head on my doorstep. A man's head.
What? When you just opened the door?
I opened the door. There was nobody there. A car was driving away. I stepped out to get a look at it. Couldn't see a damn thing. It was going so fast. I just stepped out to see who it was, and I tripped over this thing right in the middle of my doorstep.
Somebody's head?
It rolled onto the gravel like a turnip.
And it's him, is it?
Who?
It's Victrola.
No, it's Dobell.
Dobell?
Dobell, the butler Dobell.
Dobell? I think you're mistaken. Look again.
Cockfoster, he's gazing up at me at this moment, and I tell you it's Dobell.
Dobell's here.
Well, his head's here.
One moment. Frogman, go up and find Dobell, quick.
Right, sir.
Frogman's just going to get him. I tell you, it can't be Dobell. Dobell's here. Flaming Hades, he just spoke to you on this telephone. He handed this blood over to me so I could talk to you. He walked out of this room not 2 or 3 minutes ago.
I know that.
Now, just calm down, son. There's a logical answer for everything.
Will you just get over here damn fast? I'd really appreciate that.
Right you are, son. Don't you worry your head. Go and give yourself a nice tranquilizer, OK? And I'll be seeing you soon. OK?
Right.
Humbler. Humdrumborough.
No sign of him.
No sign of Dobell?
He's disappeared.
Now, don't you start.
Well, he might have slipped out for a walk. Look what I found.
What?
In his room. 15 grand on his bed.
Never mind 15 grand. I want dope. 15 grand?
That's what Belinda Ruby lost at the Ambassador.
I don't know about you, but my head's whirling round like a Battersea chair ride. Come on.
Where to?
Dr. Lamb.
Thank God, what kept you? Come in.
He says, what kept us?
You've been a good 25 minutes. It's a 2-mile ride. Where were you?
He says, where were we?
Car at a flat. Stuck there in the driveway with a flat. When we looked in the boot, there was no spare.
Had to raise a blooming patrol car. Know how long that took? God help the people. Oh, some of her. Where's the nut?
There.
Oh, I beg his pardon. So it is.
Grief.
Coup.
Now, is that or is it not Dobell?
Frogman, is that or is it not?
It's his identical twin.
What?
What? This is Dobell's identical twin.
Did he have an identical twin?
Well, he must have had an identical twin. This is him.
So where's Dobell?
Well, this can't be Dobell.
Why not? Don't start that again. Let's all keep our heads.
Keep our heads.
Frogman.
Sorry, sir.
Coup. That's all I can say. Coup. From a cursory look, Doc, was this unfortunate bonce chopped off or sawn off?
Well, I'd say a surgical saw. Nice job, too.
Nice? Did you say nice?
Professional, practiced, adept.
I'll tell you something. This is not a case of what the butler saw.
Pardon, sir?
More like who saw the butler. I can't help thinking...
Yes?
Poor old Dobell. He'd have gone a lot happier if it had been a musical saw.
Sir, you realise this is totally impossible. 2 minutes after he left us, his head was on this doorstep.
All right, check up. See if Dobell had an identical twin.
Sir.
Doctor?
Sorry?
Why did you call me?
Call you?
Why did you ring me up?
Oh, gone completely out of my head. I wanted to invite you and Mrs. Cockfoster to Sunday tea.
Sunday tea? Oh, told very kindly. When's that? Day after tomorrow? Yeah, we'll come. Tar ever so. Here we are, Saturday afternoon, the sun lancing in through the leads and making this old carpet purr like a cat.
What's he reading?
Wisdom, the Cricketer's Almanac. A very old copy of Wisdom. If I can't watch the cricket, I'll read about it. Wonder how many the doctor's bowled out today with his googlies. Now let's run through the bowling figures just once more.
Sir?
At the time of Dobell's disappearance, Miss and Peter called Fred were on a car rally.
They got lost.
You think they could have done 2 miles in 2 minutes and cut off a nut en route?
No.
The doctor was at home talking to me on the phone and answering the door. Belinda Ruby was in hospital with a relapse of her concussion. Mrs. Victrola
was in her room when I went up to look for Dobell. I popped in to see if he was with her. She was at the window, moaning about that telephone box fouling the pavement.
The red telephone box? She can see it from her room.
Oh, so it seems. I took her word for it. She said somebody was feeding it.
Bananas?
Oh, plain bonkers.
No, she said somebody was feeding it bananas.
Licorice all sorts.
Licorice all sorts?
Giant licorice all sorts.
Maybe you're right.
Sir?
Bonkers. Or maybe you ain't. Somebody is wriggling, Frogman. Sir? The second killing is always the mark of a desperate person. Furthermore, somebody suffers from an excess of ingenuity, an overdose of deviousness. Some devious old pike is wriggling and threshing, and when that happens, in my experience of fishing, the pike is almost landed. Now, wait. Licorice all sorts? Jumping J Arthur Rank. Did she say giant licorice all sorts?
Oh, she's a case, all right.
Now, shut up. We might be getting somewhere. Does she mean the square ones in black and white layers?
Pardon?
Alternate layers of licorice and white cream. Ah, what a strange and wonderful universe we inhabit. I think I see daylight, Frogman.
Ah, Sunday in the country. Sniff that. They've just been spreading fertiliser on the fields.
Yes, sir, I noticed.
Well, here we go. Oh, look at that doorbell. What a lovely touch.
Bit twee, isn't it?
No, Frogman. It's a stroke of genius. Now, eat nicely and say thank you for your bread and honey.
Ah, just in time. Kettle coming to the boil.
Hello there. Wife couldn't make it.
Oh.
I brought Frogman instead.
Hello.
Miss and Peter called Fred are coming along too.
Peter and Angela?
If they don't get lost. Oh, what a lovely house. Idyllic.
Well, come straight through to the back garden. I've been putting in the bedding out. This way. More tea for you, Cockfoster.
Oh, Tar. My wife will kick herself for missing this. Scrumptious honey, Frogman.
Fabulous.
How many wickets did you take yesterday, Doctor?
Only a couple. They brought me on to mop up the tail enders.
Yeah, it's too early in the season for real sustained spin.
Wait till August.
Yeah. I was leafing through Wisdom yesterday, trying to find a match when I last saw a bowling action like yours. Found it in the end. A minor counties match, Staffordshire versus Devon, 18 years ago, would you believe? Happened to be on holiday at the time, Tinmouth. Glorious fortnight. This left-hander ran through the first Devon innings like a stream of tap water, 9 for 49. Skipper of the team, name of Henry Pluck. Never knew what became of him, but he was a pure delight. He did teach the torches to burn bright.
More tea, Frogman?
Oh, I'm fine, thank you.
Know what happened in the second innings? He got a bit too clever, a bit too ambitious. Started lofting them up at the openers and got smashed all over the shop. Nobody could take him off. He was the skipper, see? 3 overs, no wickets for 77 runs. Excess of ingenuity. Devious beggar. It always gets punished in my experience of cricket. While sipping this very good mint tea, I've been watching those bees round those hives.
Oh, yes?
There are those 3 hives, but the bees are only going in and out of 2 of them, giving the middle hive a wide berth. Now, look at that one. Did you see? He went for the middle hive in a lazy old way, then suddenly stopped in mid-air as if dumbfounded, then zigzagged off as if you'd slapped him across the chops. Now, what's the reason for that?
The Queen is dead.
Oh, the palace is empty. Do you mind if I inspect this empty palace?
Go ahead, but there's nothing to see.
Come on, Frogman. Improve your knowledge of ichthyology.
That's fish, sir.
What's fish?
Ichthyology.
I was just testing you. Okay, you take that side and I'll take this. Now, lift. There. Cool. Will you take a look at that? Mr. Victrola, I presume. Well, am I right, Frogman? I never met the gent.
This is him, sir.
And where's Dobell, Doctor? Under the bedding outs? Do you mind if we move inside so I can ask you some questions? Cool. Lovely drawing room, Doctor. What does it measure, just for interest's sake?
I can't recall offhand.
And what would this be? There's a strong resemblance to a giant licorice allsort.
Notice that, Frogman?
Sir?
One of the square sort in black and white layers. Cassette player. Am I correct, Doctor? Mind if I wind back and play it? See how it was done, Frogman?
Cool.
Oh, yes. He took it into the red telephone box and played it down my ear hole.
He was outside Victrola's house all the time.
He came up the path first, led our tyre down and pinched the spare. Then he rang up from the red telephone box, spoke to Dobell first, told him to hand the phone to me and then come outside. Tempted him with a bit more blackmail payout, eh, Doc, to follow the 15,000? Then he played the doorbell to me and made out he was at home. Told me he was going to answer the door. What he actually opened was his car door and slid in and finished off poor fat-headed Dobell. Then back to me on the blower and says he's found Dobell's nut and will I rush over. We tried a rush, but we've got a flat tyre. He's got a 25-minute start. Time to do all he likes. Oh, it was sweet work, Henry Pluck. Worthy of an England cap and blazer. All clear, Frogman?
But Victrola, he was seen, after he was dead. At the Ambassador, then by Angela.
In Shakespeare's time, they put traitors' heads on a pike and stuck them up smiling on Tower Bridge. Correct, Doc?
I believe it was London Bridge.
I'll stand corrected. A pony has 4 legs and yet still might stumble. As I did over ichthyology, too. Must be getting old. Howsoever, why do in Victrola, Doctor?
Dobell told him about my past.
Persistent nuisance in public toilets.
I was on remand with Dobell years ago. He had a good memory for faces. I led such a lovely life up here till he came along. Cricket, bees, flowers.
Peter called Fred?
Yes, Peter called Fred. Dobell asked for money, and when I didn't pay...
He squealed to Victrola. Silly sausage. Why couldn't he be content with Gustav Mahler? You pleaded with Victrola to forgive and forget, as one lawbreaker to another. He, being a whited sepulchre, said no, and you, very understandably, sliced off his loaf. That about it?
Yes, thereabouts.
Well, you threw me up some tricky ones, but I've been and gone and sent you over the boundary ropes. Take him away, Frogman.
Sir, where to?
Take him in.
Oh, yes, sir. Aren't you coming, sir?
No, you two run along. I'll tarry a while.
Oh, Peter and Angela never turned up, sir.
I must have got lost. Or perhaps I forgot to invite them.
Are you sure you're not coming?
No, I'll linger a while. Charming room. Let's have some air in here. Absolutely charming. Here I am where I ought to be. Now then. 1, 2, 3, 4...
The Red Telephone Box was written by Ken Whitmore. It starred Bob Grant as Chief Inspector Raymond Cockfoster. Detective Sergeant Frogman was Christian Rodsker. Benjamin Dobell was John Hollis. Mrs. Victrola, Patricia England. Dr. Lamb, Ronald Herdman. Peter Royal, Fintan Fontaine. Angela Victrola, Dorcas Morgan. And Belinda Ruby was played by Sally Edwards. The director was Alfred Bradley.